All right, we got 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and bring tonight's meeting to order. Pat, can we start with a roll call?
Yes. Carl Petziger. Here. Jeff Goodall. Here. Butch Becker. Here. John Kettering. Here. Deborah Bodenstedt.
Here.
Wayne Williams. Larry Koenig. Here. Dan Guthmiller.
Here.
Michael Welch.
Yes.
Quorum present.
So now we have to wait like 4 minutes till the agenda time.
We can do the
We
minutes.
just continued this to.
We can do the minutes though. He didn't, usually he makes a little note, so we'll have to,
Right there.
we'll go ahead. And is there any, the approval of the minutes from the past meeting, May 8th? Any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I have a clarification question.
We're not open. We're doing board business.
They don't, there's not normally a public comment part on that. Is the planning commission, if there's any questions or comments. Any questions or comments on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
We're
Aye.
doing May 8th, right?
Yes.
Aye.
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 Jeff, you did the motion?
Yes.
I second.
Any opposed? Passes with
Unanimous.
unanimous.
Now should we ask a clarification?
I'm open to asking about what the clarification is, and then we can get it listed in this time's minutes if there's a point that needs to be considered. Yes, ma'am, if you want to step up and identify yourself and what your
Name and
comment is
address.
on the meeting minutes.
Name and address.
Name and address.
Name and address. Jeannie Pyron, 226 Marina Del Avenue, Yankton, South Dakota. I have a question. If you'll go to, on action, let's see. In the middle of the first page, this was the time and place for discussing regarding application from Don Swift. That right there? Okay, it identifies the property as Lot 13, Block 9. And then as you go on, Mr. Swift states that his property is 4 acres. Mr. Swift does own in several pieces of property that do total approximately 4 acres. But the property in question is, that we are considering as 1.01 acre only and not 4 acres. And
So where is that stated? Where is that stated?
Where is what stated, ma'am?
The acreage that you're speaking of?
Oh, I looked it up on Beacon. If you look up the property for Lot 3, Block 9, it'll say 1.01. So, why Mr. Swift rolled up all the property he owns and then stated it here is anybody's guess, but I wanted it clarified that he in fact does not own 4 acres of property at Lot 13, Block 9, which is the only lot that we're considering in this particular instance. Did I make myself clear? I'm sorry.
You were very clear, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right.
So bring up the mapping here. This came to my attention later too. As I wrote the minutes, Mr. Swift did state that it was 4 acres. And when we went in and looked, we have this lot, we have this lot, we have this lot, or when
The
they're
one
all put
above,
together, it's 4 acres, but they're all separated parcels.
They're different plats.
They're all separate plats, they're all separate pieces of parcel. This parcel here is 1.01 acres that we're putting this building on. So these are already subdivided parcels.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So minutes stand is approved?
Minutes stands approved. Noted it was a correction in the descriptions of the lots.
Just
That's what was stated.
we'll put
Yep.
that on today's, right?
All right, I have 7:05, so that's the first agenda item is applicant is Mr. Don Swift. Applicant is requesting a variance of maximum accessory structure size requirement from 1,200 square feet with 12-foot sidewalls to 2,688 square feet with 10-foot 2-inch sidewalls in the medium-density rural residential district in Yankton County. Said property is legally described as Lot 13, Block 9, Cabersman Edition, North 1/2, Northwest 1/4, Section 17, Township 93 North, Range 56 West, hereinafter referred to as Utica South Township, County of Yankton, State of South Dakota. The 911 address is 142 Catherine Way, Yankton, South Dakota. Mr. Swift, if you would like to come up, name and address, and tell us about your project.
Thank you. I'm actually Mike Marlowe. I'm an attorney here in town. I represent Dr. and Mrs. Swift on this project. Thank you, members of the Planning Commission, for allowing us to present some information tonight before you. I know that you heard some of the details last time. We're trying to add a little bit more information for you and answer any questions that you might have. As the chairman already pointed out, Article 7, Section 705 allows for one accessory structure on each particular property if you have an existing home on the property. So you're looking at, it's essentially 1,200 square feet, but if you look at it cubic feet, which I think is probably a better way of looking at it in this particular case, you've got 14,400 cubic feet. So it's 30 by 40, 12-foot sidewalls. And what we're proposing is a 42 by 64 foot structure with 10-foot 2-inch sidewalls, which the cubic feet on that is about 27,500. So we're a little less than twice what is currently allowed by ordinance. Just a bit of history on this. When the Swifts initially purchased the property and built their home, they had plans for doing a structure on this particular site. It was actually quite a little bit larger than this, what they're proposing now. And they went through the process of doing that. This was a number of years ago, before the zoning was actually in place. They went through the process of having that particular site approved, and the building that they were contemplating at that point was permitted and approved. They actually combined a couple of lots to make it so that you didn't straddle a lot line at that point. Unfortunately, Dr. Swift was in a serious car crash, ended up with neck fusion and those sorts of things, and didn't have the ability to go ahead and complete the project at that time. So yeah, he's now retired. He's now trying to consolidate several different storage locations into this one structure. I think I can, excuse me, I think I can run this.
From the beginning.
All right, so that's what we're asking you to do. That's a rough rendition of the structure itself. You can see that it's got overhangs on both sides. There's one single garage door that'll actually face the other direction, which face toward the bluff. We have windows, residential type windows that are installed. The plan is to, and I think it's important to note also, in the last number of years, these steel structures have come a long ways. It's far different than putting a little steel skin on a pole barn and using it to store tractors and things. You all know that now they make schools out of buildings just like this. They make sports complexes. They even make banks out of structures like this. So I think that some of the stigma is certainly worn off these types of buildings. They're much better engineered and constructed than they historically were. I think especially when you're looking at eave overhangs and things like that, it makes it look like a much more engineered and much more residential type structure. If you think it's appropriate, the Swifts are also willing to put siding on the structure over the top of the steel skin. I don't think that that's certainly not required by your regulations, but that's something that they're willing to do as a concession to make this building look similar to what their house is at present. So, as you already heard, we've got a number of different lots that the Swifts own. They have, well, first of all, this is.
Mike?
Would you like laser?
Laser? Here.
Here, up here.
Thank you. The 1 acre lot that we already talked about, that's where the site of the building is proposed. The dirt work is already done. As you can see in the pictures, you'll be able to see where it's proposed to be sited. I think it's important to take a good look at this area right here. You can see that there's a gap in the trees right now that used to be there, but when they hauled the dirt in, they took out those trees to gain access for the dirt moving equipment. So that's a little bit closer up site. You can see there's a house here. They actually share the lane with these folks here. And as you already know, and I've got additional documentation to put in the record, but you folks know that these people are not in this Block 9 edition that's over here. But these people, like I said, they share a lane. Those are the folks that are the only ones that are going to see it unless you drive on this private property. Members of the public drive on private lane, you can see this building, but otherwise, those neighbors are the only ones that can see it, and they've already given their permission and blessing to this project, as have every single other person in the entire Block 9 development, which are the other people that own property covered by the covenants that apply to Block 9, which I think you had some discussion about last time. So that's the approximate site of the building. This gives you a little bit larger view of the entire area. You can see where the road forks at that point. It'll help you orient it from where I'm going to show you some pictures. The Swifts own this piece, this one, and this one. All told, as you've heard, about 4 acres.
Show them again, Mike, please.
That one, this one,
In the house.
and this one.
And the one the house is on.
And this one, yeah,
And
certainly.
the road actually goes up to the break, that angle off road is way.
We own that to the right. Oh, this part here? No, that's Dennis.
Just the road that goes up to where it rides. Point it right
Way
here.
up.
Our lane goes
Up top.
right, way up to that Y.
Oh, sure, okay. Yeah, so that's the private lane that comes in here, that services these two residences. And this actually is not used much, but it goes down the hill. This is the road that generally services the development that goes upward into that area.
Goes right up against my property. Right in that corner, heading out.
Okay.
That's okay, you'll get your opportunities, let them present.
So that's a view of the site leveled off. The tree is missing there now. That's basically looking north and east. There is a panorama picture. See if I can make my technology work here. There it goes. So standing about in the middle of the location of the building, this is a complete panorama. You're looking basically west now, east, I'm sorry. Notice the tree cover and everything there. No possible you can see it from the east. That's actually the Swiss house back behind these trees. That's out toward the river. That's the next door neighbor's house coming up. The Christensen's home. Can't hardly see it there either. Now we're beginning to look west. That's where the road comes in out there. That's where the trees were removed.
Go back to that again, Mike.
Well, okay, you might be taxing my abilities here. Whoops.
Right there, stop. Straight north.
Looking pretty much straight north.
Okay.
So right there, we've got 25-foot tall cedar trees. And there were, like I said, there was quite a line there that they had to remove. Our plan is to bring in spaded cedars to fill in that gap again, which would completely eliminate anybody's view of that structure again, unless you're driving on this private road right here. Just another view looking straight west. This is actually the view from down below. This is the road that comes, forks off and comes down the hill. The power line, you can orient yourself using that. The Swift's house, well, the neighbors, the Christensen's house is over here. Swift's house is over this hill, as is the building, proposed building.
That's view east.
This is the view when
No,
you're,
the backup one, there was the view looking east, I think, right?
that is a view
Yeah.
looking.
Northeast?
Looking pretty much east. Okay, so now we're back, we're coming up the hill. So where the road split and went down the hill, we're looking back up, you can see the power lines again. I started taking pictures. As soon as the road comes high enough, you can crest the hill. So you're looking back toward the site of the building and toward the Christensen's and the Swift's homes. There's your fork road coming in. You're splitting your trees right there. So the building would be back here. So there you're taking down, and you go, this is a private lane here.
Starboard road going downhill,
Okay,
that previous picture.
okay.
That's Catherine Way,
This is actually their private drive.
yeah.
Catherine Way's private drive.
There's a piece on the lower part that is also kind of like this private drive.
By Gerald Peschel's, that was called Catherine Way. They were supposed to be connected years ago, but I don't think they wanted to connect.
So you can see this bank of trees here blocks any view that you have of the proposed building. Again, another view of trees. This actually takes you back a little bit further, so the fork in the road is up here now, so you're back. This is where people typically travel. And again, you can look down, there's the Christensen's house. Another view just slightly to the east.
Are
So
you
the-
just standing on Marina Del Avenue, looking
Yes.
down Catherine Way
Yes, sir.
to the southwest?
Yes. And so the building is going to be in this area here?
On the other side of the trees.
Yes. You can see right there, there's a bit of a gap, and that's where I think they took out 2 or 3 big cedar trees there when they brought the dirt in. That'd be where we would spade in, as big as they can bring in,
Yeah.
to reestablish that line of cedars there. And again, this is the Swift's lot front here, and that's the building site far beyond the trees there. This is actually we believe, 1,200-foot building that's just down the hill to the north and east from the Swifts. That's on the
Is that in the
lot.
same block, block 9?
Block 9, yes. I'm just going to kind of give you familiar with some other structures in that general neighborhood. This is actually, so down the hill, it'd be to the west, and a fairly new structure. That's the road that goes all the way back up to where the fork is. You got a new structure there. This is a separate piece. Again, I think approximately 30 by 40. I went back over to the overhead view here to show you, again, gets you oriented a little bit. So we're up here. The one I just showed you is right there. There's a large structure here. Maybe you know that there's this big A-frame house here and a very large structure, 800 square feet or more, and much higher sidewalls than what's proposed by the Swifts.
Actually, I believe the one you had just before that with that tall garage is upper left-hand corner on port side, right there.
Right there, you're right. Yes, indeed.
That's the
Did I
taller
point
one.
over here? It should be right there. That's a much larger structure than we proposed and much higher. I have a picture of that also. Not great. You can see it sitting back in there. This is so that's the hill up behind there. Then I want to take you over to West 11th Street and Deer Boulevard. So this is approximately 1.5 miles east of the Swifts' home. You have structures, so this is Deer Boulevard here. And so my purpose of doing this is the statutes require that the character of the district will not change. So I'm not sure what our district is here. It's not really defined, but if it's the Lake District, obviously you folks know that there are many of these kinds of structures in the lake area. If you want to call it the Bluff View District, perhaps. So we went over and like I said, 1.5 miles away to a very similar development to see what was in use there, so you could kind of have something to compare it to. So this is, as I said, off Deer Boulevard. There's a structure there that's quite a little bit larger. It's almost to 1,000 square feet. That's what it looks like from the outside. There's also that ancillary structure over here. Another view of it. And then there's a large, so here's the entrance of Deer Boulevard right here. There's a large structure here that's significantly taller and I think larger overall square footage. I can't read that exactly. Oh, this is 2,874, 2,874 square feet. And the sidewalls, as you'll see, are significantly higher.
Mike, that's the road I live on. I'm over here.
Correct.
2,000 square foot building. The difference is they were both put in prior to zoning.
Yes, indeed. And I understand that. I'm just telling you, one of your criteria is the character of the district going to change because the Swifts want to put in this building. So I think it's only fair to show you the kind of character in the district, however you define district, in other locations. Yes, indeed. This has existed for a number of years. So you can look at the outside there. Obviously, real tall, wide, long building.
Hey, Mike, is that the building there that you're proposing to put up?
No, sir, that's one that exists already in about 1.5 miles from the Swifts on a very similar, what we believe is a very similar location. It overlooks the bluff. There are very similar houses in that area as well. And I don't think that most people would think that that's offensive. And it's a very similar type of business as ours, type of building, although that's much taller and it's larger as well. So,
Don, what's the name of the street you live on?
Deer Boulevard.
No, Deer Boulevard runs north and south.
West 11th, he's on West 11th.
West 11.
Oh,
West
sorry.
11th. That is a continuation of West 11th.
Yep.
Okay.
Doctor Drive.
And on that street, every one of us has a outside
Accessory building.
structure, accessory structure. And I would say all of them are probably 2,000 square feet or more.
And pre-zoning.
Mine's
Pre-zoning.
1,900 if you're all pre-zoned.
Pre-zoning, what size are the properties?
I got 14 acres. This guy's got probably at least 14, the next guy's probably got 6 or 7, the next guy's got 6.
Is that Weaslers and Maybes and somebody else up there?
The last one was
There's
maybe.
Maybes, Kubel, and me.
Okay.
So back to our structure again.
And they don't bother me. That's why I went to the country, because I wanted to know.
Yeah, and I think that in terms of, you know, being conspicuous and those sorts of things too, I mean, those buildings are right on the road as opposed to right on a public road. Our building is
No. Right.
not a public road? It's a private road.
We own the road.
Thank you. It's certainly close to a road and it's not shielded with greenery and things like that in many cases, so.
How far is the building planned to be off of the right-of-way or off the lot line in this case?
30 feet, well, the minimum's, whatever's the required minimum.
30, the northwest corner will be 30. The building will actually sit parallel to my west wall, so the southwest corner will actually be about 34 to 36 feet away from our lane. And we'll be doing, and we'll be doing trees on the west as well, so that you won't really be able to see the building unless you're at
Planned to be parallel to the property line?
Yeah, we're gonna,
Well, it won't be parallel to the property line, it'll be parallel to it'll be close.
Parallel to your garage right there?
Perpendicular to the house.
Perpendicular to the house, the house actually runs sort of northwest to southeast. And this, if you just tilt it barely, so from the top left-hand corner, that's 30 feet from the line. And this the bottom corner here, to the left bottom corner will be about 34 to about 36 feet, somewhere in that area, away from the lot line. So it'll sit, it'll be perpendicular to my west wall, or perpendicular to my, basically my northeast wall, and then it'll be parallel to my west wall.
and again, we plan on spading mature trees into this area and then planting some kind of evergreen trees along this area of the property line as well.
Mike, can you bring up that picture of the building?
Yes, I can, I think.
There. Now, according to this picture that we have here, what is that on the back side of that shed? Here it's showing nothing, but it looks like a
Yeah, the old-
or something.
Well, originally, when they sent me the picture, it was 80-foot long, so to modify it to show the group here, how long it was gonna be, I had to put a piece on. Yeah, we were running out of time, so
So you added a piece in there to...
yeah, so it'll show the building and not the 80-foot structure, which is what.
Yeah, this is something we had redone to present to you tonight.
Looks like you put a camel on it.
Yeah.
Did one?
He said, looks like you put a camouflage in the building. So is your proposed building the length that's shown here, or is it?
Proposed building is what is shown here, so it's 42, 64, and then 10-foot two sidewalls.
Right.
So now that we've kind of laid out the facts and sort of established what the neighbors have and what the district looks like, I think that it's important to know that
This
there's,
will be the end of the building.
Yeah,
This is just cover up.
that was previously.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the materials that you received before. That's the new one, and I've got a written copy for your record on that.
So are there covenants in the block where the Swifts live?
There are covenants in Block 9, which are actually very similar to the zoning requirements. There's 1,200 square foot buildings with certain setbacks and things like that. That's the covenant says they exist. The only people that have any business in enforcing the covenants are the people that live there, of course. And we have 100% of the people from all the Block 9 owners, 100% of them. It's not required.
So you have an active lot owners association?
There's a road maintenance association.
There's probably a road district, and then do you have a homeowners association or a lot owners association?
There is no formal homeowners association, but there are formal covenants that apply to the property. So if you're going to build a structure like this that doesn't comply for the covenants, you need to go and get permission from your neighbors.
Right.
Not 100% of them, but in this case, they got permission from 100% of them, and including the covenants don't apply to the Christensen's home, which is just across the street to the west. And the Christensens have also agreed that if anybody is going to have a complaint about this, it'd be the Christensens, because they share that private lane, and they drive down there, and they have no objection to this structure.
The Dietrichs do.
Nobody in Block 9 does.
Is Jerry and Mary Dietrich,
They don't live in that.
they're not in Block 9?
We have, all of the folks from Block 9 were included in the original packet, I think, but I also have the written approval from all of those folks,
Okay.
all of the owners.
Is your proposed size any different tonight than previous time you came before us?
It is different from the standpoint that we added some architectural features, like the windows. We're willing to put on, if the commission finds that the steel siding is offensive or not in keeping with the neighborhood, we're willing to put horizontal siding on.
What is the siding on their home made of?
It's horizontal siding, light colored, we would match the color.
Which is?
Right.
It's a light color anyhow.
It's a wood product, right?
It-
Wood. Okay, looks, it's got a grain in it like wood?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here it is, Jim.
And how far is this from your house?
It is about 120 feet, I think. I believe 120 feet from my front door. It's the crow flies for the building.
So I think once we've got the facts established, then we can comment a little bit about your criteria, I think. And one of the criteria that you have and that you've consistently applied to other zoning requests is, how is this unique or special, or why does it create an undue hardship that should be consideration for a variance in this case? And in this case, Dr. and Mrs. Swift have 3 different small outdoor locations, or small indoor locations in literally 3 different states: Iowa, South Dakota, and Nebraska. And they have property spread out in those 3 locations. They'd like to consolidate to this place to avoid duplicating of tools and equipment and those sorts of things, and allow them to have better access and control to the property. Also, they've got some antique and collectible vehicles and other personal property that is stored outside in various locations. They can't store inoperable or unlicensed vehicles on this location due to the covenants. So even if they wanted to consolidate these other storage spaces, they would still need some kind of covered storage, which is what they're proposing here. So I think that another thing that you need to consider according to your own guidelines is the variance going to be a substantial detriment to adjacent property? Well, adjacent property, you can look on that map to see what the adjacent property is. It's all the Swifts' adjacent property other than the Christensens, who have not had any kind of an objection to this property. So there's been no hint, no testimony certainly that this decreases anybody's property values. But if it does, the people that it decreases would be the Swifts. And perhaps the Christensens, and like I said, they've already agreed to have the property altered in this way. So the other thing that I want you to consider part of your criteria is this must be not of a general or reoccurring nature, and you have to have some special circumstances, which I think are obviously present in this case. It's at the end of a private road. There's no objection by any of those in the same development. There's no objection by the adjacent lot homeowner that is not in the same block 9. This is a much lower profile structure than you would typically see too. Remember, we can go 12 feet high if we want, and you could actually have a much higher peak as well under your ordinances. But we're going for a low profile structure that only has 10-foot, 2-inch sidewalls. The siding, like we said, if that's an important issue to you folks, we go in to do the siding to match. It's hidden from view unless you're on a private road. And also, one of the things that I think very consistently you folks do when you're looking at variance requests, you want to see what impact it has on other people's views, right? That's a big thing, especially in these, what I'll call the Bluff View District or the Lake District. People care about their views, right? There isn't one single person that's going to have their view blocked by that structure. So,
What is your peak height?
17 feet 6.
10-2 is the white.
To the sides.
Right there.
10 foot 2 inches.
17.
A 17-foot peak.
You also have a list of other sites that you've considered for variances. I saw that Mr. Garrity handed that out to you earlier. There are a number of sites that you have approved with very similar types of buildings, some buildings much larger. And I think that, those considerations that you had when you determined that those were appropriate candidates for variance also apply here. I can go through some of those if you'd like, but. Anybody have any questions?
I'm sorry, what did you say the peak height was again?
I didn't say, because I don't know.
Seven.
Well, it's fantastic, easy to figure out.
17.2 shows on your
The
drawing.
height of the sidewalks.
You'd still have,
17'2".
Shows 17.2 on your drawing here, Mike.
okay. That's the old drawing, I think.
Yeah. But if you're gonna have 10-foot 2E,
With that pitch, yeah.
Yeah, 412 pitch.
probably not 4 on the metal.
Probably.
It varies depending on
4 to 6.
what pitch you have, so.
1, 2.
So I heard 17 feet, is that what I heard? Somebody did it out.
What's the width of the building again?
42,
Figure it
so
out.
21.
I'll tell you.
412 pitch.
No, that's not going to help you on your, unless you know the pitch, it's not going to help you.
Well, you can figure the pitch, if you have 21 feet and you're going up
You
7
can,
feet.
you can put a flat roof on it, it doesn't have any
You'll
pitch
have
at
it here
all.
in just a second.
That's a 312 pitch. 7 3s is 21.
Probably
You're going
is.
up 7 feet.
I just don't know, so I don't want to mislead you folks, right?
42 times.
But when you say 17 feet
Got
2
the half,
here,
Mike.
that's a misstatement, or
That's
you're not sure what it is?
And a 312, that would be correct. 42, half of that's 21,
Okay.
and 3 times 20, 1/3 of 21 is 7. That would make it 7 foot.
We're gonna have about 17 feet.
7 foot.
Gonna be right at
No,
about
this is
17
correct.
feet.
This is correct, 7 foot.
17 is right,
17.2.
because it's from the 10 to the
This
7
says
foot.
17 feet here.
What's this?
Mr. Chairman, it's standard.
10 to.
Right, it's 1.5, yeah. It's
Sure.
a more rise over run,
Is 7 feet.
Oh, all right, I see what you're
And
saying.
actually,
17 feet.
that's not, your ordinances don't prevent somebody from having a very steep pitch if you want. It just says 12 feet is measured from the highest point of the finished floor grade at the highest point of the wall framing. So it doesn't,
Right.
the total height doesn't enter into it here, but we certainly could put a much higher pitch on it if you wanted, but that's not what they intend to do, so.
So if they agreed to put siding on it, would it be similar siding to what they have in their house, or would it be similar colored to what they have in their house?
Sure, color and texture, sure.
Yes.
Because one of the things that we asked you to do is go back to talk to your neighbors and then consider the aesthetic values of the house so that it looked like belonged to you rather than some,
Yes,
And that was our plan originally.
yeah, the whole point is, and for me, it's got to be aesthetically pleasing too. I just want a low profile so it blends into the property.
You added the windows.
Yeah, we added windows and shutters, and we added a 2-foot eaves off the both ends, off the overhang, and, the one door facing roughly our house, facing the direction of our house. And when the trees are around it, it's not gonna be seen. It's yeah, just want a nice place where I can safely do auto projects. We have some antique furniture to work on, a nice gardening equipment can be in there. We just want to consolidate it all in this one building. So I'm going to be around. I'm not a snowbird. I'll be around year round. And I plan to Florida, South Dakota. I'll die here. My son-in-law is an attorney in a position. He's coming back to South Dakota. He finishes in Michigan in 2 years. And something happens to me, they'll have the house. And we'll go on to the. So it's gonna, we're here to stay. But I want to have a safe place to work and enjoy my retirement. Wintertime, like I say, we're not snowbirds. I'll be working in the garage.
So if you change the sidewalls to horizontal wood product siding, would you mind changing the roof from steel to asphalt shingles?
We have steel in our house.
Oh, you do?
We have steel in our house.
Okay, I did not know. if
Asphalt
there's-
and steel.
Yeah, okay.
So it'll be a similar color to your roof.
Oh, yes, yeah. I mean, I want it to match. I mean, this is, I've been waiting for this for 20 years, so I want it to be right. And I've seen other, Mr. Peschel, we spoke at length, and he signed off. He said, it'll be great up there. I looked at his view, and then Don Beltkamp, who signed off, another Block 9. You see those condominiums there, and they totally destroyed their view. And so, we talked about that too, where I am. I'm not interfering with anybody's view. The only way they will see it is if they come onto my private property, into my lane, and into my yard of my house, and then they'll be able to see the garage door and see it. But it's going to be obscured. It's going to blend in. It's important to me that it's aesthetically pleasing. That's the way I was raised. So it's good.
Other questions?
That's good for right now.
Thank you.
Anyone who would like to speak in favor of this project, if you will come forward and state your name and address, and if you have any comments. If anyone is opposed to this project, if you would like to come forward and state your name and address and your issues with the project. Yes, ma'am.
Last week, the,
Name, please.
oh, I'm so sorry, Jeannie Pyron, 226 Marina Del Avenue.
Gonna pull the mic to you, so here.
Last week when we talked, I had come up with a lot of questions, and the board made it abundantly clear that you were not out here to police covenants. So, of course, I did my homework, went back home, and looked at strictly at the variances. The criteria for variances and whether or not they've been met, because that, in effect, is really the only thing that matters, and that the fact that the neighbors in Block 9, but none of the other neighbors, just in Block 9, have blessed the project is a moot point, considering the fact that the ordinances are the things that are required to be fulfilled. So I looked at the variances and tried to figure out how an undue hardship, do you want me to go through each and every variance and ask my questions regarding them? I don't want to waste your time.
Give you 5 minutes, ma'am.
Okay.
So tell us what you want.
The undue hardship. If you look down on, that's A. If you look down on D, it says it has to be demonstrable and exceptional hardship, and it cannot be a purpose of convenience. And convenience is all we've heard, is that it's convenient to move all of these things onto his own property. It's convenient for him to be able to walk out his front door and go to his garage. I'm not sure that we have the demonstrable and exceptional hardship with just the convenience. All of these first things, each and every one of them must be met in addition to everything that's on the second page, a written application demonstrating that that special conditions exist for Mr. Swift that don't exist for anybody else to other lands in the same district. Again, the definition of district, I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it has to be something that is not applicable to anybody else. Let's see. The character of, again, the character of the district, Mr. Marlowe said that the character of the district will not be changed. Again, definition of district. But let's just say all of the houses that he gave examples of are part of the character of the district, are part of our district, and I'm not exactly sure where the lines of the district are drawn. Every single one, as the gentleman in the black shirt mentioned, are on substantially larger pieces of property. And if you look at the area, the zoning is an R1 zone. R2 is where we are. So the properties that have all of these larger buildings are on huge lots. The fact that this is just a 1.01 lot, the percentage of his property that's going to be covered by this garage is quite substantial when you take into consideration the size of the other properties and the buildings that are on them. So when we go through, when you decide to approve or not approve to the commission, do you walk through all of the criteria for variances and make sure that they've all been met?
Your findings always do. Correct?
We go through and we define the findings, or if there's a conditional use, it'll say, and this was the conditions that was applied to it. And usually Pat has this meets X, Y, Z, this meets X, Y, Z, this doesn't, or, so there's usually a checklist that goes through on that.
Okay, and is that done here in the public forum, or is that?
Yes,
Oh, okay, cool, all right. Those were just the exceptions that I had, that had kind of popped up when I was going through them.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition to this project? Name and address and.
Jerry Dietrich, 292 Marina Dell, building a new house, right? Well, I was the only one that didn't get a picture. But
You're
if
in
you
that
would've-
picture?
No, I wasn't in the picture. Because he stood evidently close to my driveway and took a picture of where his proposed house or building was gonna be. I'm new to the area.
Are you in his block?
No, I'm just right across the street. Catherine Way, Marina Del Avenue, it splits to Catherine Way, and then it goes to, I think it's,
You're right west of the junction,
I'm right on the corner.
Here's Catherine
the
Way.
junction, the corner.
Here's Marina Dell. Are you in this lot here?
Yes, yeah, that's an old picture, but yeah. So it's new construction, it's been going, it's about completed.
So that's the lot you're on.
Correct.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No worries.
You need the picture to discuss it?
No, I don't.
Okay, go ahead.
And I gathered here from the previous lady that the covenants didn't apply, which I understand that too. But the variances you grant when you go from like a 1,200 square foot to a 2,400 square foot, I'm a farmer, I've got buildings that size and 4 times that. In that area, why I moved into that area is for the reason that the quiet, the peaceful nature. There are no steel buildings. The only steel building, and it made a difference when I bought that lot, was the one that we had a picture of. It was below the hill, but it is not in that development. So And as you said before, if it was before the zoning, that's just the way it was.
So your main objection is the steel?
The steel, the size. A 1,200 square foot's 30 by 40. You can do a lot with that. But the steel is a big objection because there is no steel buildings up there in that look. I will see that building. From my deck, I will see the building right there. It is in my view. You can go up there and walk on my deck if you want to, and you can see it.
They've already indicated that they're gonna put siding on, so if that's the case.
But she said a steel roof.
Do you see their steel roof from
They have a
your
steel roof
house?
in their house?
I don't see theirs because theirs is up a little higher and it's got trees, but where their lot, where they cleaned off there, I can see the dirt.
I'm lost. Are you objecting to the dirt or to?
No, I'm objecting to a steel structure and a 24 square foot.
Mainly the
What?
siding, mainly the siding.
The size and the steel.
Because the roof, your house is already steel.
And I didn't know that until just a very face of it. When you're coming across the dam, you look up there, there's about a 6 foot, it looks like, face of it, the rest of it isn't.
So if Mr. Swift built any one of those other lots, a house out of steel, you would have no objection?
No, if he built it out of steel, it would, yes.
Well, you couldn't.
He couldn't build it out of steel. He
No, you
shouldn't.
couldn't have a complaint when he could build his house out of steel. That's what he's,
Because you can't have a steel house.
See, the deal,
You can't-
and it's unfortunate, but if you don't control everything that's in front of you, you can't control what they build on, other than through the ordinance.
Okay, if I could go back a little bit, when their lawyer mentioned that, he mentioned the covenants that were in place, but not on that deal. He says that to abide by the covenants that are in place in that area. So they're trying to abide by the covenants from everywhere else, but they're only choosing to abide by the covenant that protects to them.
I think they're only required to abide by the covenants that are on the property.
Right, right.
on their property.
But he was using that for an example, that he was abiding by the covenants in the whole area.
Not the covenants, the flow in the district.
Right.
In the other areas with sizes of buildings.
One of the
he
things
did
that was
mention covenant.
explained in the last meeting was there's two different sets of covenants, even though they're written identical. So your lot is in a different zone or block, and they're in like block 9 or whatever it is. So even though they are written exactly the same, they're two different separate entities. So, for instance, the covenants that are on his property and those other houses in section 9, those are enforceable to the people in that section, and yours are enforceable to the section where, or whatever address where you're at. Even though they're written verbally, they said, I haven't looked at them, but they said they're verbally exactly the same. They're two separate entities. So it ends up being, one, we don't deal with the covenants, that's something that the homeowners themselves or whatever in that part, and we just deal with whatever the county zoning.
Right, and I understand that, but I guess what my point was, I was bringing up that they approached it when they were talking about being looking proper and fit within that area. It was mentioned that the covenant and abide with the covenant, and I just thought, well, okay, it was interesting that you would abide by the covenant there, but you're not abiding by and not just the covenant of that particular zone or what is it, zone 9 or something?
Block 9.
Block 9. Even though when you build there, you have to get permission or talk to everybody around that's
Right, but
within
if you were building something on your lot, Mr. Swift wouldn't have any input on what you were building on your lot, even though the covenants were exactly the same, because he's in a separate, different entity.
But I had to go get his approval and show it
Did
to
you
him.
have to, or did you just do it?
You needed to do over 50% of the people around you.
No, you didn't have to get his permission.
No.
His covenants don't apply to you.
Well, we did.
If you were getting a variance on a house, if your house is bigger, if it obstructed somebody's view or whatever, and you were getting a variance for that, to get a regular building permit, you wouldn't need it. But if there was a variance or a conditional
To
use that you're
something
putting
different.
it on, then you have to advertise to all the people that are in the area within 4
Right, right, and I understand that too, but.
Was your house bigger and you needed a variance or something?
No, you just, it was in the covenant, you needed to have
We
people
don't
around
deal
you
with
agree.
covenants.
I know, but you didn't, but I was just explaining why I did.
In
on
your
that.
covenant?
In my, yeah,
That's in your covenant?
and our covenant was similar, like you said, verbiage to the other one, block 9.
Oh, but I mean, in your covenants, you had to tell other people that in your district.
Show them a plan, what you.
In your district, that are in your block, you had to show them and get approval from them on the plan and the house. But he isn't in your block, so you didn't have to show him. If your covenants apply to your block, they apply only to the people in your block, not to him.
Okay.
What's probably confusing is folks bought from some original landowner, one would think he could do things consistently, but John didn't.
Okay, then as far as a steel structure, I mean, then he's in his, he can put up a steel structure in that area?
If he were willing to do a 1,200, he could have had a building permit by now. We don't care what the material is.
All we're giving him is the
More
size
colors
variance.
Could have been all steel. We can put, condition on it, that they put siding on, because there was something that they said was a possibility.
And
that
windows.
that would make it look like the other structures that he has.
Only thing he doesn't comply by is the size right now.
Right.
So one thing is I want to point out in this discussion, these, they're called arch steel buildings, they're galvanized or whatever, right? And they're like look like
A hoop barn.
hoop barn or Quonset or whatever. So if someone came in here and they wanted a 1,200 square foot one, they could have one of those. And it would be, hey, it met the requirement, wouldn't need a variance and anything else. So that's just something I want people to think about, when you look at these different, whether it's metal sided or wood sided or whatever else. If you're inside the 1,200 square feet, you could make it neon purple and it could be whatever you wanted, and that's just something that is a reality, that we don't get into colors and all of that.
Yeah, if your neighborhood or your covenants say that you have to fit into these sort of parameters,
Right.
whether it's light color or whether it's a size or whether it's got to have windows, that's a covenant thing. But the ordinance, like he was saying, if it was 1,200 square feet, he could have come, get a building permit and he wouldn't even be here. It'd just be a building permit. He would have built it out of whatever he wanted.
Maybe it
So
should just
to-
be 1,200 square feet then?
Well, we're at this point right now where
Right.
he has made concessions to put windows in it and change the siding to match his house. I mean,
Wouldn't you rather have a little bit bigger building with nice horizontal siding on it to match his house versus one that was 1,200 square feet, which he could build with purple steel on it?
Rather than a miracle span.
I mean, honestly,
Right.
yeah, I mean,
But I guess to get to this point, I'm not sure why we, if he would build it similar to his house.
He is.
Well,
Siding.
if he put
Same
dormers on it and he put the peak that's on his house on it, it'd probably be sticking up there another 12, 15 feet.
Yeah.
Because he's got a pretty the peak house and has dormers because of the size of the pitch on it. On his original part of the house.
Anyway, sir, do you have
But
any
he's trying
other
to keep it,
comments?
he's trying
No.
to keep it down by dropping
Thank you.
it from 12 to 10.
Any additional people who would like to address in opposition? Yes, ma'am. Name and address. This is taking longer than the hot one.
Hi, my name is Deb Groders. It's 101 Leo's Drive, and I live in Marina Del area. Just a few points I
excuse me,
wanted
ma'am,
to...
are you on that map?
I'm a little bit north of there. It makes a circle around and where... Pat can show you.
Upper right.
It's part of the neighborhood.
When is it there? Is it this one?
It's that one. No, the first one you had. Yeah, there you go. We get off, and I totally understand where you're talking about covenants and how you're not concerned with them. My concern is that we are part of the neighborhood there. I mean, I think Swifts belong to our road district. They come through Marina Del every time they come and go. Yeah, she's one of the officers of our road district. So we are a neighborhood, and technically, I don't know if the Kabizman addition is the only one you need to be concerned about, but I don't think that's the concern here, because you're concerned with county zoning. And the 1,200 versus over twice as much as that, to me, is a big difference. Now, you talk about, on number 7, on your variances, it says that the commission's going to make its finding, and the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible reasonable use of the land, or reasonable use. So who decides what the minimum variance is going to be in something like this? My concern is that every neighbor out there, or anybody in the, I mean, how are you going to say no to anybody else? Why do we have zoning if we don't need to, for some specific hardship? You know, I know a lot of people have these buildings and they're nice, but we live in a more or less residential, you know, these are our neighbors here, and we don't want to see a big storage building put up there. I think that's where we're coming from here. And, you know, basing a variance on whether you're going to plant trees in front of it or not, to me, is kind of a, you know, trees come and go. I don't know that that should be on the criteria. The pictures that were put up there showed, you know, the panoramic. Well, they were taken from here. You know, and there's this neighbor that sits on his deck. It looks a lot different when you're driving down the road than when you're standing there doing a panoramic. I thought those pictures were a little bit distorted. And again, I think I pointed this out, but one of the things of the variance was that if you grant one, that the character of the district will not be changed. Again, we don't have a definite definition here of district, but we all feel pretty well that we're all part of that community there, and we all live there and kind of want to see it not have a bunch of storage buildings, whether they be steel or whatever else they may be, of that size going up out there. And I don't know how you're going to deny anybody else if this one is granted. Thank you.
I don't know the address, but I think if you go, I work at the dam, so I'm kind of familiar out there, but I'm not completely. But if you go up the road where Cottonwood Corral, I think, is that 314?
343.
Whatever, it goes up the hill.
435.
So that's kind of, isn't that like also one of the entrances to Marina Del Rey is on that end?
Yeah.
Right.
And isn't there also a big building right basically at that entrance?
Pre-zoning. Pre-zoning, that was for that is this one right here, not that big. That was for the grape stand and the orchard then.
Greg Stack, Greg and Marion.
Yep, Greg and Muriel Stack. That's where that one is. Okay, I just want to show, I'm backing it out there, you can see the entire neighborhood.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak in opposition to this project? Your name and address.
Proximity to the source.
My name is Don Engelgau, 245 Marina Del Avenue. On the previous picture up there, my property is right in the middle of the screen. Bought that lot about 15 years ago and built a house on it approximately 11 years ago. I wanted a bigger outhouse. I went with Robbins with 30 by 30 as a maximum. What's to prevent me from coming in here next month and asking for a larger building? You're setting a precedence right now. And I'm within half a mile of this building. My man cave is same as my house. It's hardy plank, same color. I'd like to have, I've run out of room in it. I also have a farm and a lot of machinery. I don't want it here. But think about what the future is. Wow.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to the project?
Tom Posh, 234 Marinadale Avenue. I would like the committee to be aware of the fact that this is just a small smattering of the people in the neighborhood that are against this. I've spoken to others who are against it too. If it comes to pass that we need a petition, I think we'll have a lot more support that we could show you. I think that the guidelines seem to be getting minimized a bit. I hope that is a misperception. I just wanted to point out a couple of things that we're aware of that we hope the committee adheres to. H on page 97, conditional use will not adversely affect the public interest. Well, it's affecting our interest, and it's going to affect a lot more than just this small group right here.
Excuse me, you said conditional use?
H, general compatibility with adjacent properties and other property in the district that granting of the conditional use will not adversely affect the public interest. It's talking about use, but we're talking about the building. It does affect the public interest. The building does affect our interest, the locals' interest. Section 1807, 1A, strict application of the ordinance would produce undue hardship. Well, it does not. If it produces hardship for them, it produces hardship for all of us, because we're all in the same neighborhood. Such hardship is not shared generally by the others. It would be. We're all in the same neighborhood, same size lots. We're right next to each other. I wanted to point that out too. We're looking at the map here. The photographs are misleading, because I know that we'll see it from our deck. Pyrers will see it. Brex will see it. That gentleman will see it. The house between Breck and that gentleman will see it. Marcia Madsen will see it. Bisgards will see it. Gaydon will see it. The house next to Gaydon will see it. There's going to be a whole slew of people that are going to be staring at this thing. It's not a small structure. It's going to be taller than most of the trees out there. We're all going to see it. They're going to see it down below too. Their new houses down below, where Catherine Way dives down into the valley. Their new houses down there are going to see it too. And some of us, a lot of us, are going to see it off our decks. Our view is water, and we're going to look off the side, we're going to see it. And some of the houses are going to be more in front of them, more directly in the view. D on page 98, granting of such variance is based upon reasons of demonstrable and exceptional hardship. That's not true. Again, if it creates a hardship for him, it creates a hardship for all of us. My garage, I would love to put up a bigger garage. I put up a detached garage. You can find my property on there, and I followed the covenants and put up a 30 by 30. I got an acre lot. I would love to put up something twice that size.
Did you consider it?
Yes, I did. I respect the covenants, which all of my neighbors are following too. His covenants are the same.
Your covenant.
His covenants are the same.
But his covenants, even though they're exactly
I understand.
the same, they don't affect, they're not, the people that are under your covenants can't enforce the people under his covenants.
I understand
His
that.
Covenants of those people can't enforce the covenants on the other people.
I understand that. I respected the covenants. They have the same, but we're beyond the covenants. We're at the county level now. We're under the same guidelines as he is. So we're all talking about the same restrictions now at this point. Number 3A, exist which are peculiar to the land. They're not. We all have a similar landscape out there. So far, none of these things qualify. Literal interpretation of the provision of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district. Not true. We've got to make this distinction, R1 versus R2. We're R2, so those places where they have 6, 12, 14 acres, that's different. There are R1, that's a different ordinance, different guidelines out there. special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Well, it's only the actions of the applicant. He wants to store equipment in there. Again, we would all have to do that. Either, you know, we all have to abide by the restrictions, or they shouldn't apply to any of us. Because we can all come up with our own reasons why we want to put up something bigger. Number 4 on page 98, no non-conforming use of neighboring lands, structures, or buildings in the same district, and no permitted or non-conforming use of land, structures, or buildings in other districts shall be considered grounds for the issuance of a variance. So these examples that we're being given, other buildings, it's irrelevant. The application in question has to stand on its own merits. These other examples don't apply. They're irrelevant according to the county's guidelines here. And then finally, page 98, number 7, I want to point out what has already been pointed out. The variance is the minimum. But I don't hear any discussion about enforcing the minimum. I'm hearing about, 3 times the size of what the rest of us are abiding by. Almost 2,700 square feet. I put up a 30 by 30. I would love to have gone bigger. The Engelgaus would love to have gone bigger. And in fact, he's got so much spare room there, he could put up a shed 3 times the size of what the applicant is asking for. Are you going to grant that? We'll be here all, many times. But if he gets enough signature, then we're right back to the county. And if one gets it, and there are enough who on it, we'll start getting more support, and pretty soon we'll have the properties up there will be full of sheds.
So you would feel that if you put a bigger shed on your property, you would like it, right? And you would...
I don't think my neighbors would like it.
Oh.
He wouldn't see it, but my neighbors would see it. And not only me, the Engelgaus across the street would want to put one up. Maybe Gaydon would want to put one up. Bisgards would want to put one up. There are lots of people up there, lots of property. People down the valley, lots of room down there. We'll start seeing these sheds popping up. Again, do these restrictions apply to all of us or to none of us?
That's probably part of the problem, that our zoning ordinances are probably outdated.
And
Everything's
just
bigger
for
now.
everyone else's information, the zoning ordinances are in review right now. And one of the issues that is being addressed under the review of the zoning ordinances is the size of accessory structures.
Everything's bigger nowadays compared to what it used to be.
So that's just another part of this whole discussion, that make everybody aware of some of the conversations that are going on.
But right now, we have to give out variances.
Exactly.
A lot of them.
Anything else, sir?
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this project? Of course, Dennis, you're like a regular speaker.
I like that shirt.
Oh, thanks. Dennis Brackett, 264 Marina Del. I'm in a bad spot. I mean, we just last week had our road district meeting. Ann's our treasurer. These are neighbors. My concerns, probably the first one is the value of what can happen to our property up there. We have over a $14 million assessment in Marina Del Road District. We have over 50 homes. There's 40 some of them that are not in that area where he's at. And the rest of us have all, and I explained this last time, we've all had to change and tweak things to make it work. We never came to this board to ask for anything bigger. I'm concerned about 2 things. One, I'm concerned about the metal. I will see this. I'll see this when I look down the road. You're going to see, and I hear this from people that in the lake area, that the neighbors have put a metal roof on their home, or they have a storage building. It shines. It glares. And so you look towards the lake, and what you're going to see is glare from the metal roof. Don has metal roof only on the south side of his home. It's not hurting anything. There's nobody over there. So south and east, okay, but there's nobody there. The rest of us, as we come down the road, are going to see this glare, I believe. This was an issue. I have one lot out there I have listed, and most of our lots in Marina Del sell quite quickly. The one that we can't seem to find a new owner of is one that's overlooking the metal building that you guys talked about, the one out there on Eichfeld's that was put up before. It was put up, that area does not have the covenants on it, and we did not have zoning when that was put there. McCoy's put it years ago. The lot above it looks down on this roof, and it's glare. So it is, I believe, been a deterrent in trying to sell that lot.
What color is that roof?
Brown.
I'll show you in a little bit.
So, and I feel bad. I don't want to go against the Swifts. I think the building is I think it's too big, but maybe we can hide it in there. My concern is the value of the rest of our homes out there. We've kept that value up, and we've kept this area very desirable because we do not have any other metal buildings out there. The other thing that I'm concerned about, besides the value, is the precedent that we're setting. I think we're going to be in for a problem with the neighbors. I know of two now that got these notices. They're hoping that you guys approve this building because they're planning to put up a building. That means, and this has nothing to do with you guys, but it means you go ahead and approve another one, then it's attorney time. Then it's time to enforce our covenants. And Don knows the covenants are enforceable because he had an issue with a house in front of him. So it's just, I feel bad, but I think it's too big and it's metal. So,
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this project?
Would you guys consider putting asphalt shingles on the roof of this building?
Well, where we are is, we get the Northern Express coming up the hill. There used to be a lot of trees there. A fellow had bought the lot, tore all the trees down, just kind of like an Afghan hillside. We get the Northern Express and the wind. And I don't, I'm going to do, it's a metal roof is the way to go there because I'm going to have to be replacing shingles all the time. We get horrendous winds in the wintertime. Summertime, we've had them up there with the ice rattles and things. So I want a solid metal building. I don't want a stick building. I want a solid metal building. It's going to withstand weather. And so, it would be counterproductive to put shingles there. I mean, when paint shingles on it, it's a dark gray roof. It's going to blend.
Which the new paints are matte.
Well, one thing is, I don't think the planning commission wants to get into defining on how we do structures, because I used to do historic buildings in downtown Charleston, South Carolina, and you guys are aware of like the issues in Sioux Falls. This planning commission is not going to determine what color people build their houses, or, if it says they can have a fence and they want to put corrugated metal up, it's a fence, I guess, that. So we're not going to get into colors and definitions of building structures, because that's not our responsibility. So all of these things are being taken into consideration. If there's no further discussion from the audience, Pat, do you have any input on this?
I gave you folks another little attachment that you've got with this. I wanted us, accessory structures have been on the front burner for us for a while. We have them show up a lot. I wanted to run some reports. So I ran reports from 2009 through 2018. You've got those reports in front of you there. As you can see, as the years went by, we ended up doing more and more accessory structure variances. Yep, that'll be that one. Just open it up a little more. Yep. So your first one is how many by the year. It's sorted by the year. And your second one is sorted by the size. And then we also have that we denied some. And as you can see, most of the sizes tend to run in somewhere from about 150 down to 12%. but we have a lot of them somewhere from 150 down to about 35%, greater than what the district is. A lot of these, I can show you special, if we went through the findings on a lot of these, I could show you the findings that you came up with that allowed you to do something like Roger Hart's. It's an existing farmstead surrounded by farm ground. He's a long ways from anywhere getting developed, and he's an operating existing operation. It was fairly easy to do a hardship on that one. Some of these other ones, as we go down through the line there, have been a little bit more on very rural areas or rural backgrounds, in other words, farm ground back behind them. So we've been able to find some findings with a lot of these. But it also, in the sort where you see where we did it by size, we have, we've never even looked at it this way. In other words, looking at saying that we have a 2,000 square foot allowed, we had an applicant for 6,000, that's a 200% increase, okay? So we started putting some metrics to that about a year ago, or the office did, because we needed to have something to start comparing this with. We keep doing them. Look how many we're doing.
That's what
What's the first signal? Dan alluded to it a little bit ago. When we start doing this many variances, we got an ordinance problem. We got to fix the ordinance. We're going to have to go in there and do something. And it's not easy, as we've already seen. It's not easy to amend the ordinance, but we have to probably start taking a look. So let's go back to the history of this. Why did we end up doing this? Well, September 22nd, 2005, they have it in front of them, but we passed an ordinance for an amendment to amend Articles 6, 7, and 8 of the Yankton County zoning ordinance. And in that amendment, we went in there and we said that we feel that in order to have an organized and predictable method to choose accessory structures on rural properties, that we should do this ordinance. And they passed it, and it went through the system, and it's on the books. And this is what we're obligated to enforce. And you see it right in front of you there. It's the first sheet there. That's the actual resolution, and that's the amendment that went through in 2005. So it says you've got one in Article 6, which is low density, and this will help answer another question. What is a district? A district is a zoning district. So it's a commercial zoning district. It's a lakeside commercial district. It's a low density rural residential district. It's a moderate density. It's a high density. It's RT, or rural transitional, and the other one that we have in our system is agriculture. And those are the districts that we have. So we have residential districts, and we were very cautious at that time. We felt we needed to move forward in which we separated not only the square footage size, but also the sidewall size. Now, as we what instigated this were two big permits. One over here that was done in 2004. This building here is what probably promoted us to go and do it. Right there.
Where?
That one.
Where?
Where?
It's a 6,000 square foot building. And it got plucked in there in 2005. And it's, quote unquote, is supposed to be a homeowner's storage shed. And for this large development that was going to go in there. And that never happened. And so the reaction to that was, and this is why zoning is so important, and you have to think a little bit, but I think we kind of went a little overreactive on this thing, but we reacted as a county and set a whole new set of ordinances that I find very difficult to enforce. Because it seems that most of the population out there does not want to go with these sizes of buildings, but this is on the books. And until this changes, we have to really be careful. And the more that we do out there, you heard several people today say we're setting precedents and it's dangerous. We can get to a point where we don't even have an ordinance. We won't be able to support it.
But it seems like everybody wants it.
I know they do. So what I support is we get out there and change the ordinance.
That's what I'd say. It's almost like it's outdated or we've outgrown it. Haven't we?
Yeah, let's change it. The other one that comes up all the time is this one. This one right here. Came up earlier. It's come up several times. That building was built by a
Is that the big
Mr. Rue Piper.
Red one?
Yep. So we can.
Structure.
Yeah, it was built by Mr. Rupiper in 1998. Excuse me. And so that really isn't fair, and it was one of the structures that was utilized during the discussion as to accessory structures and their impact on rural residential areas. And it's in the minutes as to that was one of the buildings discussed. And so these buildings that are being pulled out and being used as examples are buildings that were reason why we did the ordinance. So we have to be very careful here with these things. And when we do the ordinance, as both of you, Dan and Mike said, we have a problem. What do we do? Continue to go down the road with this problem? Or do we say, wait a minute, let's take a look at this, why don't we change the ordinance? How long does it take to change an ordinance? Tonight, we're gonna do a first reading on an ordinance on the overlay. It took us about 3 months to get there. I think we're at a point where we have to take a look at this. I don't think we can push this down the road anymore. This one and minimum lot requirements in an ag district are both ones we have to take another look at because we're doing too many of them. And we got a problem. And if we keep pushing this down the road and keep doing this process, we're not going to do ourselves any favors. So with that being said, I did want to point out that the lot that we're working on with Mr. Swift is a 1.01 acre lot. It's not excised. I know he has other properties around there, but remember, all those properties are separate. So it has to be viewed as a 1.01 acre lot.
Which is the minimum size in an R2 district?
It's 1,200 square feet.
No, which is the lot size? The lot is
Yes,
the
the
proper
lot size is the minimum size in agriculture in that R2
R2.
district, which is a moderate density district.
High is 0.5, right?
Yep. Now, I'm not going to deny that just as the other gentleman said, we're looking at, and we have bigger toys, we have more things, we have more stuff, and we have more value in that stuff. I'm not going to deny any of that kind of thing. But then our ordinance isn't keeping up to date.
Right.
And the other thing that I want to point out again is that very seldom have we sat down, once we get done with this, and we do what is called number 7, where you all go down through this variance and we say, did we meet this and what are we going to say? We usually go about it in the process of during this conversation, and then a lot of times I'll ask for very specific things at the motion. What's going to make this? What's going to make that? Which you do see show up in here. But, for instance, the hardship for Mr. Swift is what? I'm having a tough time with that one. Or what, if it were a situation, what would be a hardship for Mr. Hartz out there at that agriculture district, out there in a low-density rural residential, completely surrounded by 300 some acres, and he's an operating farm? It's a pretty good hardship. That's pretty good. That's the real thing. He's been there. He's a second-generation farmer. He needs his building. But I'm having a difficult time. Are we going to get ourselves into a place where what are the hardships on a lot of these accessory structures? And so I want you to think that through, because we will have to be pretty good with that, because we will be contested.
Now, just to bring up an interesting point for people to think about. So, for instance, if Mr. Swift built his building somewhere on his lot and it had a 4-foot walkway to his house, then it would be in addition to his house, and it could be any size, right?
Yes.
Just wanted to point that part out.
There's ways to do a lot of things.
Literally, I mean, you know.
Then it's attached.
Then it's attached as the primary structure.
But, you know, tonight we'll go through the exercise of the variance when we do decide what we want to do here. When you're ready, after you've discussed, but we do have to answer these questions. Because I can't answer them all based on what I've seen so far in our testimony. So with that being said, it's commission discussion time, and if you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them.
So I'll answer your question after we close this particular issue.
Well, it is part of this.
Right, but we've already closed public discussion on this issue. But as soon as we get done with this, then I'll come back and we can ask the question.
Now, I know you've all read this ordinance, and I'm sure that a couple of times because you needed to go to sleep, but this is a hearing in which it's a recommendation. This is called the County Planning Commission. So So it's a recommendation that they're going to put together based on findings that we're finding from this meeting. This will next go to the what's called Board of Adjustment. And that's another public hearing in which everyone gets notified again, and it will go in front of the Board of Adjustment, and they are the decision maker, the quasi-judicial decision making. So they can look at it all fresh again. So whatever, I just want you to understand the process, that this is the first step. Okay.
Any further discussion on the planning commission? With no further discussion on the planning commission, do we have a motion? Right, but we have to,
Can't we, I think
We're
we
in the
should,
middle.
I think we should discuss the steps here within the variance before we go for a vote.
okay.
So, if you look on, I'm not sure what page is in your guys' book, it's 100.
Well, just go to 1807.
Yeah, 1807.
Why don't I read them out loud, Devin? You guys go ahead and answer. But, so 1807 is the variance.
Yep.
So no such variance shall be recommended for approval by the planning commission unless it fall. The strict application of the ordinance would produce an undue hardship.
So the reason Mr. Swift is wanting to build this building is to consolidate personal equipment, I guess, from 3 locations. If that's a hardship. So he doesn't have to maintain 3 locations, I guess.
Yeah, what about the
Well, they're also in Iowa,
antique?
Nebraska, and South Dakota, which is ours.
Exactly.
What about the antique motor vehicles?
Well, and the fact that he has a potential to have unlicensed vehicles that he needs someplace to put because they're antiques. I guess that's my interpretation.
Okay.
Anybody have any comments on that?
I also heard that it was also, they have a lot of numerous antique and valuable autos and things that would be better kept under the storage.
Yeah, that's what I think
Yep.
Deb was getting at.
Yeah. Okay. Such hardship is not shared generally by other properties in the same zoning district and the same vicinity.
I don't think we had any testimony of other people having antique motor vehicles, so that would be peculiar to what he is desiring to put into place.
Okay, that we did have testimony saying that other people would like to have storage for their personal needs. Didn't
Well, I
we?
was talking about the motor vehicles.
Yeah, I know.
The antique vehicles.
I know. But I just want to state, that's fine. Can that be a hardship that's not shared by others?
I had no indication that there are other people that have it that concern or need. So it'd be pure speculation.
Okay. Authorization of such variance will not be substantial detriment to adjacent property, and the character of the district will not be changed by granting the variance.
I think this is the one where we had the most discussion. I mean, the Block 9, it doesn't seem to bother the people in Block 9, but they all are members of Marina Del District, or whatever you want to call that,
They all agreed to it.
in his area, in his block.
Well,
In this block they did.
yeah. But you're talking about a covenant there.
Right.
Stay away from them.
Just forget covenants.
Yeah, we're not doing anything with that.
Here's your district. As far as zoning, here's your district.
Where?
Oh,
And the zoning district
What do
is
you-
moderate density. So it's got that yellowish on there, the darker yellow up there, that's low density. So there's your district, that whole area.
it's all moderate.
Yep.
It's all R2.
You need to be prepared. Are you ready to go ahead and all those different, let's say 6 of those lots now will do larger structures? Are we ready? If we're,
Sounds like most people want it that way
Yeah.
because they don't like it when the next guy's doing it.
Sour grapes.
okay, so you got moderate density. Will it be a detriment to that district?
I don't think so.
I think it depends on each individual structure. I mean, think of a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago, when we had asked another applicant to come back with a building that matched their house better, was aesthetically pleasing to the neighbors. A second, when they come back a second time, they've made some changes. I mean, I think every applicant is different.
I've got a question on this one on your sheet here, Pat. It's
Mm-hmm.
the Knifel properties back in January. I know it was denied then.
Yep.
We came back with a different proposal.
And I didn't, but that just happened earlier this month, and so I don't have it on that sheet.
That wasn't on here.
Right, but it will be. That one was approved.
But that was, wasn't quite as large as what he has
Right.
over here, but it was substantial. It was over 200.
It was 100-something by the time we finished. The original was over 200, 300, was 200 plus, and the second, and then,
238.
yep, and the other one that came in was 100-something last month.
180, I
Yep.
think, something like that.
Yep,
Or 60.
on 45 acres.
And this one is 100.
And that was in our
That was
R1
R1.
district.
Was it R1, wasn't it?
At the hardship, Mr. Swift could easily, when he bought the property, he was in an area that had a covenant that he thought would allow if everybody said he could do it. Now the hardship is he's got to sell that property, and the other 4 lots or 3 lots, and go find someplace where he could execute his hardship.
Okay.
So have we, the substantial detriment to adjacent property and the character of the district will not be changed. Have we talked about that?
Does it?
Well, the direct adjacent property, I would say no, because most of them are vacant lots or vacant flats, with the exception of the neighbor across the road in the other homeowners association who's agreed. So I guess that'd be the direct adjacent property.
I go back to, why did we do the ordinance in the first place? There must have been a large group of people that felt that that was a detriment to the neighborhood when they got that big. Is this shit, I just want to make sure we're thinking that through. I agree with what Don says, there's previous, previous to zoning ownership things, which we use, that's fairly reasonable. But that piece there, are these large sheds detriment to the neighborhoods?
The tax assessor doesn't think so. I know that personally.
What's ironic is most of them that spoke against it said, I wished I could have made it, got a bigger shed, so.
Yeah. So would that change the neighborhood if all of a sudden we have a lot more bigger sheds in that neighborhood? Okay. So you right now feel like it's not a detriment to the neighborhood?
I don't think so.
As I said before, I think it's each individual application. I mean, we have to take into consideration whether it's flat out ugly or whether they've made it more aesthetically pleasing. And there are some flat out ugly steel buildings out here in our county. Flat out.
Okay. The granting of such a variance is based upon reasonable, demonstrable, and exceptional hardships is distinguished from variations from purpose of convenience, profit, or caprice. Okay, so profit and caprice are out. We know that. Okay, this is his own personal storage, and there's nothing malicious about that. He's not in there with the grow house or something, so we don't have any other activities that we see. It simply wants to do storage of his personal property. Is that convenience? I don't see it as that. What do you think the convenience is when they're talking about in here? What's convenience?
I suppose convenience could be that it's going to be on your property instead of having to drive down Highway 50 to a storage building.
Could be. Could also be, for instance, I think sometimes convenience falls in like yard setbacks and that type of thing. I want it to be closer to the yard setback because I don't want to walk that far. I don't want to be at the minimum building requirements because I don't want to, that's where I look at some of these. The building accessory structure, I don't think falls into that. That's my opinion on that, on convenience. So accessory structures under D
Yeah, I see what you're
don't
saying.
really feel like there's a lot of merit there for an accessory structure under what different things we're looking at under D. As long as he's not doing it commercially and as long as he's doing it in a legal fashion.
So he's not asking for one from right away or property line. I mean, he's meeting the requirements for that,
Setbacks.
standoffs, and there's nothing about, you know, being a quarter mile away from anybody for,
Okay.
If you'd asked only for 2,000,
Excuse me?
if you'd only asked for 2,000 square foot accessory.
But he's in a moderate density, so it's got to be 1,200.
yeah.
No variance shall be recommended for approval unless the planning commission finds the condition or situation of the property concerning or intended use of the property concerned, or the intended use of property of not so general or recurring a nature as to make reasonably practical for the formulation of a general regulation to be adopted as an amendment to this ordinance. I think we got to talk about this.
Yes.
We got to put that in the findings, that we do see an awful lot of these now, and we are going to have to address this in the near future
Yeah.
as an amendment.
That's the problem, our zoning is outdated.
Okay.
We're getting hit with a lot of,
Before any amendment, whoops, I'm cruising all along there. So recommendation of approval concerning a variance from the terms of this ordinance shall not be founded by the planning commission unless and until, so a written application for the variance, submitting demonstrable conditions and the circumstances exist which are particular land, structure, building involved, and which are not applicable to other land, structures, buildings in the same district. It's a bit of a repeat of what you just went through earlier there, but that would be that it's for storage, we're looking at antique vehicles, and that there was previous landowner expectations prior to zoning on that piece of property, in which he talked about having everything ready to go, and then got in the auto accident, da-da-da-da, some of those. Is that good?
For storage and pursuit of hobby.
Okay.
So on the previous application that went through the planning commission, don't they normally, do they have a sunset, like within 2 years or 3 years or something like that?
or they lose the, we could put that on there.
I'm lost there. Let's stick with the
What I'm saying is
findings.
if he came before and it went through.
Oh, I never saw that. I don't even think you did this.
2003, we had permits when we did our culmination.
Okay, and that was pre-zoning. Yeah,
So does that permit have a time requirement?
yes, 6 months. But, okay, so we have the written application, you have it there in front of you, you know what the site plan looks like, you know how they're going to do this. A literal interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance.
Couldn't we also make reference to the fact, unless I've missed it, but that he had permission back in 2003?
He didn't, though. We didn't, he was pre-zoning. There was never an official,
Because he didn't need it.
he didn't need it. But he purchased the property with intention.
With the expectation, and then the accident occurred.
Unfortunately, there's no grandfather clause.
No.
So, let's interpret that sentence that you just read
Okay.
there. Pat.
The literal interpretation of the
Literal interpretation of the
provisions.
provision of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance.
If we start giving out variances, Mr. Swift, let's say it goes through, let's just say let's go back to the Jensen permit that we allowed, and that's over there on the Nottingham development. Okay, so that's over there in West 52. We did that back in 2015. If the next door neighbor came in and wanted to do a variance the next week or the next month or the next 2 months, this is what they would pull out. You allowed it over there, you need to allow it here. So right now, we have some of them out there. So we do kind of have we do have precedents out there, not in this neighborhood, but we do have precedents out there. So we're somewhat stuck with it a little bit in saying that in my opinion, you're sitting there with this thing saying the little interpretation of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights. There's already some people that have that right. They were able to build their accessory structure under a variance. So again, an urgency to get the ordinance changed too.
There you go.
So we would have to be affirmative that, in a sense, I mean, what do you want to say there? You guys talk to me here.
Well, that's why I'm confused on that one.
Okay?
We've already given some variances that are similar to that.
We've already
Yes.
given them other variances.
Yep, quite a
So
few.
are there any active variances that we've given in that district there?
No. But that's a big district. I mean, it's moderate density. I've got variances around there. I've got variances right up there on Kaiser Road. I've got variances down there in Highway 52.
We give variances,
We got
we give
variances up to
variances in moderate
180%.
density districts.
Yes.
You said no.
Yes, I meant, yes,
But what he's
there's
saying is
variances.
no, not in Marina Del Rey area.
Not that Marina Del, we
But
have
when
not
you look
done
at
But
that.
that's not the district, is
The
it?
districts are R2, R1,
Right.
Yeah, they're big.
and they encompass, the district is defined as under the whole county, R2, R1,
Right.
rural ag, whatever.
And, I mean, a blatant example is if somebody came in and wanted to bring in 29 roosters in the middle of that district there, and, we're gonna go into rooster business, I think that's probably a detriment to that district. There's probably an issue. Is this that deep, is that just that way?
Yeah.
And we've done some previous permits, haven't we?
Yes.
Right. I don't think the building would be a detriment. I would see the property value would rise by the
Okay.
significant amount.
Are you saying that from an educated opinion?
I guess so.
I can tell you that from an affirmative on my tax bill.
C, the permit, the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant.
Run that one more time.
Okay. The special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Okay, so is it literally that because the applicant came in and filled out that application and wants to build this building that doesn't exist there now, is that an action of the applicant?
Yes.
I mean, that's just simply a process that the applicant's doing. Why is the applicant doing the building?
The special conditions and circumstances would relate also back to the accident.
Yes.
First property that had an accident, that was not of his doing.
Okay. That's a good point. And the other one then is what? He has,
Him applying for it doesn't make it a special condition.
doesn't make it be what you would, yes, doesn't make it a special, as a result from him. What's he doing with it? So it's personal storage,
He's enjoying his property.
okay? And we gotta, but we got rules that go with that. So what's he doing with that property that doesn't make it so special? Not a result of him.
Did Mr. Marlowe bring up any? Because he,
Special?
he brought some, I mean, he brought up a couple there, he was talking about. It was basically back to what I think is in the beginning of the whole thing. It's the antique autos, the
What about the fact that it's on a private drive? I mean, does that have anything to do with,
it doesn't make, yes, it's,
well, we've got the antique vehicles, we've got the unlicensed vehicles that need a place to go. There was a,
are we better to try and change the ordinance than to try and blend and see if we can make all these variances work for these accessory structures? We're struggling here,
But
aren't
the
we?
issue at hand, though, is we can't change the ordinance tonight.
No.
So the issue tonight is the accessory structure permit that is under our review
And
right
we're
now.
really struggling here.
But we've already given many variances similar to it.
Yeah.
It's just,
So we can't continue to do them, but we're struggling here a bit to answer these. We're struggling here a
Well,
little
as
bit.
part is like Deb said, each application in the years I've been doing this between the city and the county is they're separate entities. And one of the things, there's specific setbacks to the property of, you know, the boundaries of the property. Because later on sometime tonight, we have, you know, boundary setbacks. Well, this setback is very unique because they own the road that it's set back from. So it's actually significantly farther than, you know, what a normal setback would be. So that's one of the, you know, situations that makes it a uniqueness.
Okay.
You know, it's not like it's like right next to Fifth Street or Maple Street or whatever else. It's like, hey, this long, long, long road is actually their road. So when we're setting back from the road, we're setting back from, you know, in a normal setback, it's based off a section line or county road or official, you know, recognized public entity.
I have to do this, but here's his place. Here's the lane coming down. It's going through another piece of property before it gets there. It works great today when everybody's here, but it is going through another piece of property. That's not a negative on I have no issue. That has the easement. That's all legal. There's no problem there. But it is going through that to get to there, which then we want to
so
build
that
the
little triangle?
house.
That
Who
little
owns that property?
That triangle there?
Mr. Swift.
That's it. So
Yep, but it's a
any-
separate part.
Any detriment there would be for that with
Okay.
that property going through, that would be fall on him later on.
Yep.
That's
'Cause he
not-
owns
that's
that
not hurting
now.
anyone else.
So you know, so you got that issue there too. So how does that work?
But
Like
it can't be a
what Butch just
detriment
said.
tonight because he's the guy that would be a detriment to.
That's right.
That's what,
He can't-
okay.
but I don't believe it's a detriment anyway, but.
Right, but you know what I mean?
know,
is
I know.
that
Everybody else wants to have one. They're almost using the argument, I would rather have it.
The problem, the issue is that you've got an ordinance in front of you that we're trying to work through here. Should we, anyway, okay. So if I come in there, the granting of the variance will not requested, will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to other land, structures, or buildings in the same district. So what are we going to do in there? We're going to say, because everybody else is held to the 1,200 until they come in and get a variance, okay? You've set precedents already by giving variances because the trend out there is that they want bigger buildings. You're going to probably have to go back to your precedents to support your decision here. You're already recognizing that we're committed here. We know we have to change the ordinance. We're going to have to go back to our precedents because we've been giving them out. So we're kind of stuck until we change the ordinance.
Right, we're being really liberal on hardship, I think, but when we go back to the precedents that we've done already.
Yeah. Is that accommodating? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not, I think with the wording, the special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to others, it's not. We're not denying it to anybody else. If they go ahead and get the other neighbors to sign off or whatever,
Yeah.
that they're doing under their own ordinance or their covenants.
Mm-hmm. But just remember, when we do get the ones, we're going to have to be this thorough with them because what is their, do they have a hardship? Make sure it does.
Okay,
That's the problem, like I said, we're really being liberal, giving them a hardship.
yep.
So one of the questions I have, I know we're continuing discussing this, but the reason we did a continuance was to evaluate the building size, materials, and aesthetics, right?
Yep.
So when we were here a month ago, was it the same size building structure that we're looking at tonight?
Yes.
But they're willing to change the siding though.
It's the same size structure. I don't even care about siding. The siding, that's fine in variances, and we can do those things because we're in the variance process. But there'd be no way when I wrote an administrative permit, I have no authority to tell them what they build it out of.
But we can though.
That would have to be
Tonight.
under a condition.
Yes.
And this
We can-
isn't
we
a
can put that
conditional
condition.
use.
And this isn't conditional
It's an
use
addition.
either, so
Yeah,
this, we're
it's a
just
variance,
suggesting.
Not a condition.
Really, we don't have any teeth to make him put any kind of siding on there. Not under this. This isn't a conditional use permit. This is a variance. We have no teeth. We have no building requirements at all.
So back to your precedent, we had an R2 approved from at 3,360.
So we're just taking.
1,200 to 3,360. We had an R2, 1,200 to 2,400, 1,200 to 2,400, 1,200 to 2016. 1, 2, 3, 1,200 to 2,000.
2,000 to 2,560.
Yeah.
Yep.
Remember, as you get more and more
1344.
variances, you're gonna get more and more precedents, you get more and more unpredictable for your people out there. They don't know where you're gonna go. Just like the ordinance said, the reason why they did this was they want predictability.
This
So we
is
can't
in
dawdle.
This is in the range of what we've approved before.
Yes, that's true. Okay, so it is in the range.
So back to the siding, we're just taking Mr. Swift's word, goodwill word that he would put.
It's fine in a public hearing. I mean, there it is. There it is. But
Change his
if I
mind.
had to go out there, if I had to go out there and enforce it, there's nothing.
So, okay.
There's nothing, I can just go out there and plead and be nice, but I have no teeth on a building structure.
If his covenants have something that says about color or whatever, that's a whole different story. You're gonna have to take that up with the other people in the block. That's not our bailiwick.
Okay, number 4. No non-conforming use of neighboring land, structures, or buildings in the same district, no permitted or non-conforming uses of land, structures, or buildings in other districts shall be considered grounds for the issuance of a variance. Precedence is different than this. This is like saying, pointing out the Brew Piper building and saying, I want to use that for a precedence. No, no, no. That isn't even, we didn't do a variance on that. That wasn't even in place when the variances, since the ordinance has been in place. This will not allow us to look at that and say, hey, we can put one in everywhere. But it will allow us to look what we've done variances on, because that's your precedence, that's your decision-making. And you can utilize those for your decision-making.
Somewhere out in that general same area, somebody was building an indoor soccer arena in the last
Yep,
year.
that's Mr. Jensen.
Ben Johnson.
Ben Jensen went through in about 15.
Ben Johnson was denied in 9 and
Yep.
came back in 16, and things changed.
Things changed.
Sizes went up.
Okay, all right, so on that number 4, that is true. We aren't you're not utilizing those in your decision. So then you have public hearing, we're doing that, or public notice, the public hearing, we're doing it right now. Now we're making the findings. So we just went through the process, we made the findings based on these criteria. And then now it's time to do a recommendation of approval for any variance with appropriate conditions and safeguards in conformity with the ordinance. And under no circumstances shall the planning commission make granting a variance to allow a use not permissible under the terms of this ordinance in the district involved, or expressly or in implication prohibited by the terms of the ordinance in this district. Those issues, those things that are there, if you go back out to number 7, there's prohibited uses. Just flat out prohibited. You can't do them. If they're not listed, you can't do them. And that's what that means. You can't just suddenly put a chicken farm in the middle of Marina Del. Okay, so you are, that part is, we're okay there. We're not doing something like that. Because the accessory structures are allowed in residential districts. Okay, so with that being said, what you've got there then, you have to make your motion.
So our hardship, we're housing vehicles antique vehicles. Moving everything from 3 states into 1 location. Were there any other, guys, any other hardships we mentioned?
That, I don't know how far back precedence goes, and I'm not gonna swear up and down that I'm 100% right, but if I took these 2016 on, I counted 23 of them that were over 100%. Only 7 of those 23 of them that were done, only 7 of them were over 100%. So they're all pretty small. All of them that have been approved are the smaller, 100% or less.
Yep.
And granted, 100% increase is a big increase.
Yep.
But the majority of them are in the 60, 70, 80%. I don't know what that says, but it's just, I guess it's good that we're doing over the last.
We have a rule here, Broders, and we have you buy ice cream in the summer and
Refreshments, goes past 2 hours, we need refreshments.
I agree, though, that is a point to, even though it's still a, but yes, it was interesting how that came out, because even, and that was not without the metrics sitting in front of us, but we do have a tendency to have them be smaller than the 128.
A lot of these are maybe in rural areas too, in agricultural. I didn't check that.
They would all be at least in a residential, that's the only place it can do. Yep. We don't have minimum building requirements in ag nor commercial, but we do in, and in Lakeside, but we do in residential.
I think we're safe to say that over the last 3 years, there's been a significant increase.
Yes.
In the number of variances sought and allowed.
In size.
And we have to be, and why? Because we're getting more and more requests, there's larger needs for, or more needs, they have more needs for the larger garage doors, et cetera.
To the growth of the county.
But then we need to react. And this motion here needs to help me start reacting, because then I can start moving forward on with the recommendation from the Board of Adjustment or the County Commission to start working on the ordinance. Because it's not working right now.
I agree.
Well, I'll make the motion and you list the findings.
You don't have what
We got the
motion
finding,
with
you guys,
all the
let them make their own.
stuff.
I'll make a motion that we approve the application to increase, where did it go?
Approve the variance is what you're doing.
The variance. Where in the hell did it go? From 1,200 to 2,688 square feet with a 10-foot, 2-inch sidewall as sought by the applicant. And consistent with that, the following findings are
Well,
provided.
the hardship, the undue hardship by the applicant would be housing unlicensed vehicles, housing antique vehicles that need, moving property from 3 different states and consolidating them in 1 building, and that he bought the property with the belief that he would be able to build a structure of this type at that time. There is no similar hardship by other properties in the same zoning district, in the same vicinity, being R2. The authorization of such variance will not be substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not be changed by the grant of the variance. We have not had any testimony that indicated that it would be detrimental to the value of the property. And there is precedence that we have over the last 5 years, granted variances for these similar structures in an R2 district. There is no demonstration or of exceptional hardship that is distinguished for the purposes of convenience, profit, or caprice.
Did you want to put conditions on it?
And there are no special conditions or circumstances that do not result from the actions of the applicant.
Well, there would be a special circumstance.
No, that's the first part, concerning a variance. Well, what do you want to say?
Special condition was the circumstance that he could not proceed
Correct.
due to an accident from previous.
You are correct. The special circumstance and condition that resulted in him not building in 2003 was his health.
Auto accident.
Due to an auto accident. In recommending of this variance, we put the conditions that he replace the trees that were removed from the north and plant trees on the west and cover the building in siding that matches his house.
I think Deb might adjust that to spade in trees. That's what he said.
Okay, spade in trees, replace trees, replant trees, spade trees.
Relocate trees.
Spaded in trees generally.
Okay.
Rarely do they.
I amend mine to say he will spade in trees to the north and to the west. Cedar trees, I believe, is specified, so they would match the other trees in the,
Yeah, he
in the
said
neighborhood.
cedar.
Okay.
Cedars were removed,
And-
I think they should go back.
And does he get to keep the metal roof on the building the same as the house, or?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't see a problem
I
with
don't
keeping the
think,
metal
I
roof.
don't think that or the siding is part of our deal.
We can put a condition
That's what
on
I'm just wondering here, but.
it. Number 8.
I would, we can't put a condition on, but we can say that during testimony, the applicant
May
stated.
prescribe appropriate conditions and safeguards. So,
To conform.
all right,
To conform.
That's what my question is, so we're just taking his word, basically.
yes.
No, we're putting that on here, because if it's in here, and they already said they would do it. And
Yeah.
this here, number 8 allows us to put that condition can be put on for conformity.
So this does have teeth.
Yes, right there, I think number 8 gives it teeth.
Conditions and safeguards.
Safeguards conformity.
Anything else that I've not mentioned?
Yeah, that we need to do the amendment.
Oh, and we would also make a recommendation that the ordinance be reviewed and amended to better reflect the lifestyles and the desires
Numerous variances.
of the people in the county, and as a result of the numerous variances that we have granted for similar buildings over the last 5 years. That suffice, Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
That's the price.
You said ditto.
Ditto. Yeah.
We get the whole motion then.
Who's seconding it?
Carl.
I made the motion.
And Deb seconded.
No, I did not.
You
She
made the
did the findings, you seconded it.
No.
Who seconded it, Bruce?
We haven't seconded.
We
I'll
haven't
second- I'll
seconded it
second.
yet.
I'll
That's
second.
why I asked if there was a second that was being, if
I
it was ready
didn't thought
for it,
Deb
because
was.
Carl
Deb
started
said
the
you'd make
motion
the
and then
motion.
Deb put in there.
Okay, so I got a second from Becker.
I just
Yes.
filled in.
Okay, with the following conditions as stated previously and findings of fact for approval of the accessory structure size, Kretzinger,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Beth Miller,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Bodenstedt,
Yes.
excuse me,
Yes.
Kettering,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Board of Adjustment. Next stop. Next up is the Board of
I
Adjustment.
mean, I do have a printed copy of the materials, but then I'll let you keep that flash drive also for your record.
Okay,
Thank you.
Pat will be getting in touch with you for the next.
Yeah, Board of Adjustment is it's July 3rd.
Open country.
Oh, you have to give them a soup
That
substitute.
took longer than the summit in North
July
Korea.
3rd.
I think it took longer than the summit in North Korea.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Thank you very much.
It sure did.
Thanks, Jim.
No longer afraid of cables.
The protocol that we agreed on,
Yes.
30 minutes.
Thank you.
for both sides.
Thank you.
And an hour.
Okay,
Yeah, we need to-
so right now, we've been here a long time. I think we should take a 5-minute break if someone needs to get a drink or whatever else, and we'll continue on with the rest of the evening.
5 minutes.
If no one wants a break, we'll just move on, but I think Carl, we're ready, we'll take a break, 5 minutes. By the time 1 o'clock rolls around, 5 minutes doesn't make it that much difference anyway.
Yeah, this is,
Read out just your food.
It's either 5 minutes or when Mr. Goodall gets back.
What?
Could be 30.
So one of my only, I looked at it because we have precedents that it's 6 years all the way back, but part of the continuance was to evaluate the size of the building, that's why I asked. So part of this
I'd
could be
offered to.
relieved if, okay.
That's
you
all right.
work with me with-
But you really showed
you
up.
like this?
Instead of
So Pat, now we have teeth according to number 8, right, on the use of siding.
It's some conditions
It's a-
we can put in there,
it's a
which is true, a
recommendation
little
Board of
more than
Adjustment of the
at a
Board of
variance,
Adjustments
yes.
and-
To maintain the what did it say, integrity of the character of the neighborhood? Yep. Yep. So there is some.
Okay. I misunderstood before.
Yeah.
Said there's no way we can have it.
Because I can't at all with building permits.
No, but now we can because of,
Yes, with conditions we can. And the way he read it, I kind of discovered that too when I was going through it there, that
Number
we have
8.
some authority to do some conditions,
because we've done that,
Appropriate
we've done
conditions
that,
and safeguards.
appropriate conditions and
conditions.
safeguards.
because we've done that many times in the past.
Well, we did it on like the ag waiver, out there.
So one of the,
Well, that was usually on a conditional use. Right. Before.
Oh,
Record, huh?
That was pretty bad.
yo, so this is the first time we've done it on a variance?
Then I can think of coming in there and stipulating
Well, the
the
Kneifel
skin.
came back and did it themselves,
They did the same thing, he offered to change his siding.
but we did.
oh, now we're waiting, okay, so, well, anyway, just for information, the next agenda item will be starting the 7:20 item, so we're well within,
We don't have to wait, do we?
We're well within.
are we
two-
talking at 7:20, is
we-
that July
we are-
20th or
we are
tonight
well
at
within
7:20?
Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, we'll go on with the 7:20 agenda item. And applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to provide indoor party event facility amusement in a lakeside commercial district in Yankton County. Said property is legally described as Tract A, Lot 2, Parcel D, Northeast 1/4, Section 17, Township 93 North, Range 56 West, hereinafter referred to as Utica South Township, County of Yankton, State of South Dakota. The 911 address is 108 Marine Drive, Yankton, South Dakota. The representative here, if you could step up to describe your project and all the intricate details of it.
Yes.
Yes, name and address.
You've been here for 2 hours, you know the game.
Yeah. My name's Scott Lundquist, 801 Mariner Lane. What did you need to know?
Tell us about your lakeside
Your project.
fund use project that is requesting a
Conditional use permit.
conditional use
This
permit.
is the one next to Captain Woods that's
Okay.
been going
Yes.
for the past 4 or 5 years there.
Used to be run R&D repair.
Right.
He wants to have indoor parties.
Just
events,
indoor
right?
parties.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mainly kids' birthday parties, use some inflatables. We have a kitchen area, seats about between 38 and 45 people.
Okay. So, what type of parking are you gonna have for your event? I mean, if you're gonna have that many
There's a-
people, how many cars are you expecting? Do you have enough space for that?
I think so. We,
There's your mouse, you can show them where you are there too.
I can't. I'm really not supposed to drive after dark, so I can't see that very good.
Here's his location.
Now, you've put some new concrete in there this spring, right? On the south and on the west, correct?
Right, correct.
How much parking do you think you have? 10 cars, 20?
Probably 20, yeah.
Okay. Do you have, you say you have a kitchen? So.
Yeah, there's a kitchen area.
He's in Lakeside Commercial, so.
Right.
Yeah, he's fine there.
Questions we had last time.
So that has septic?
Yeah,
That's all done there? That
Yes.
structure that has all septic in it?
correct.
The reason there was questions
Nobody
from
was
last
there. They
time,
weren't here.
because
He
he
wasn't.
didn't come, so sometimes like I'm.
We're a little
like,
busy.
Oh, you didn't come, so we'll make you come tell us about it, so.
Correct.
That's how you're here tonight.
Yeah.
So aren't you actually already doing this? So we're kind of doing the permit to catch up with where we're at, because aren't you already kind of doing this?
I did until I received notification that I needed a conditional use permit, so I didn't do it anymore.
But you got in here and got it done, so no
Right,
fine for
we
you.
applaud you for that.
Well, we're not gonna,
It changed.
if I'm granted, I guess.
Yeah.
I
It
won't
changed
do anything
use,
into,
It was a dance studio for a while.
yeah,
There you go.
Then when they left and they went moved closer into town, then you took over the.
it sat empty for a couple of years.
Yeah, but you were in the front portion, the front building, the south building
Mhm.
for a while.
Yeah.
But during that time, when the dance was in the other building.
No,
Oh, you weren't?
mm-mm. It was used as storage for 3 years, I think.
Okay.
I moved into the front of the building and then,
Did you
Was
buy
that-
that all from Ronnie?
no,
Just leasing?
yeah, for now.
So your operation is mainly on the weekends and possible evening parties,
Correct.
pretty much. Otherwise, you do your rental business.
The rental business is normally in the spring, summer, and fall.
Yep.
This would just fill in the gap in the
Okay.
evening, or in the winter.
All right?
You're just gonna operate in the big building, or what about the small part?
No, that's storage,
That's storage?
yeah.
All righty, thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Is there any-
Can you tell us why does he actually need a conditional use permit? Because
It's called, underneath it, if you go to Lakeside Commercial.
yeah, on there.
He'll tell you.
Because he's, restaurants I see are allowed, and retail sales.
Yeah, go to conditional uses, because that's all, that's listed uses, and then under conditional uses,
Is like the.
amusements.
Amusement, what is he defined as?
Amusement.
Amusement?
And you go back to definition, and it's exactly what he said. It's like hosted parties.
Okay, so.
Why are we, the intent of the ordinance and writing that and having that be done is that, one, we want to make sure we don't plug up the traffic. So if he came in and says, I'm going to have 100 people come to this thing at events, we got a problem. But he's talking about 20 cars. He's got, the building's only so big. That's what we're checking.
To me, it
Exactly
seems
what we
like it's
did.
very suited for Lakeside
Yes.
Commercial already. what he's
Yes,
doing.
exactly. But we just want to, we want to make sure we have septic systems, we have facilities, we have safety factors, and we have,
Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak against this project? Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak in favor of this project? Any discussion on planning commission?
Yeah, if he's gonna have parties in there, is he gonna be able to serve food under this?
No, that's a different use.
That's what I'm,
if he does, if he has his kitchen as part of the amusement, like they're, they can do their serving or that type of thing, but it won't be, he'd have to come back again and say, I'm doing a restaurant. This is not a restaurant. We might have a kitchen there, but it's so far, it's not a restaurant, right?
Restaurant is permitted anyway, right?
It's a kitchen, it's a corner dinette with cupboards and everything for them to store things. And then there's 2 large commercial refrigerators just to keep things cold.
What's the problem with a restaurant anyway? It's permitted.
We just have to know it.
But if he goes with a restaurant, then he's got to go through the state and get restaurant permit, license.
The entire Lakeside Commercial District is really just basically uses. I mean, we get to build a few buildings down there, but it's mostly uses. What are the uses? So his use on this one, we know right now, is not a restaurant. It will be a amusement facility that has kitchen facilities so that the tenants or the people renting can use the kitchen to do their process.
He did want a restaurant, that'd just be.
He just comes in and tells me.
Administrative permit anyway.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
Make a motion that we approve this conditional use permit for Lakeside Fun Rentals.
I second that.
Second. Okay, you did it.
Second by
Deb and Dan. Can we have a roll call vote?
Deb and Dan?
Yes.
For approval of conditional use for event facility based on findings of fact that we found there regarding safety and what else we did. How many
Parking.
cars, what the celebration and what the use is.
Parking,
Septic system.
septic, hours of operation.
Septic, yep.
Downcast lighting.
Yep. Okay. Vote, Ms. Deb.
Yes.
Guth Miller.
Yes.
Koenig.
Yes.
Betzinger.
Yep.
Udo.
No.
Becker.
Yes.
Kettling.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Motion carried.
The next applicant is a 7:30 agenda.
You need to write,
No.
you can see, or you can somebody?
I think I can still make it.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
7:30 applicant is James Larson. Applicant is requesting a variance of minimum yard requirements on a side yard from 75 foot to 25 foot to build an accessory structure in the agriculture district, AG in Yankton County. Said property is legally described as Tract 3, West Jim River Division, Northwest 1/4, Northwest 1/4, Section 33, Township 94 North, Range 55 West. Hereinafter referred to as Mission Hill North Township, County of Yankton, State of South Dakota. The 911 address is 3616 Southwest Jim River
right down
Road,
there in the corner.
Yankton, South Dakota. Mr. Larson, are you here?
He's
Thank you.
still
You
here,
can
yes.
Come on up and tell
Thanks
us
for being
about your
patient.
address and project and
James Larson, 3616 Southwest Jim River Road. I am seeking to put up a machine shed, 40 by 60. Right in about that area right there.
And you want it to be closer to that property line?
Pardon?
You want to be closer to the side yard there, is that, that's a property line, right? That
Yeah,
yellow line?
25 feet.
Okay, so you want to be from 25, you want to be 25 from 75.
That's like it shows on here.
Do you want to do that, or did you want to do it this way now?
Oh,
Because we were back and
yeah.
Okay.
This one here, I have not gotten a firm bid on for the dirt work.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
And I've been waiting on that,
Just wondering why he wants to do
so I should do this one and, or,
We got somebody going down.
It's a variance, we don't want, ask what you want.
okay.
Yeah.
Or you want to stick with the side yard, or you want to go to the front?
If that comes in too high, can I switch it over to this one?
We have to do another hearing.
Do another hearing?
Unless you want to wait, I can come back next month, we can just continue
What do
this
you
and
mean
come
too
back
high?
next month with the bid.
There's nothing in ag district that limits height.
Bid, he's talking about bid to bid.
75 feet, yard setback.
Oh, I
That's what
thought
your
it was
variance
height.
is.
You said high.
Okay, on this one over here by the highway, what's the setback there? 30 feet?
75 from the highway. 30
From this
30
line.
30
From the right of, yeah, from the
From
right.
the center line of the highway, you measure 50 feet because it's a 100-foot wide.
Plus 75.
And then you go 75?
Yeah.
I was under the assumption I could go 30 when we were talking.
We're variancing it though.
Oh, okay.
30 is the minimum.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But are you talking side or front?
I've been talking both. Okay. Let's,
Mr. Larson originally came in, and what you have on your site plan is what he talked about.
Yeah.
Okay? Then he's come in, and he's kind of questioning the stability and the beauty of his two front buildings here, and wondering if maybe he should put one in there instead. And those two buildings would come out then. But, what, you needed we still haven't got bids? Are we still bidding
on
that?
the dirt work, well, I really didn't want to waste anybody's time coming out and telling me, this is what it's gonna cost to move those 5 trees and a little bit of concrete footings in there. Until I found out from you guys, okay, this is a doable thing. Then I'll go to them, and if it comes in with what I want to pay, then it'd be great.
So with the proposed location up there where that dirt spot is, that's where you were gonna put it, right?
Yeah, the first one, like
Right there, okay.
right there.
So you wanna change the distance to that property line from 75 to 25, and is there a good
Right,
reason
right
why?
on that one, yes.
Why do you wanna do that?
Just to pull it closer to the fence line. I have a driveway right here, and that would allow me just to go straight.
So it's an accommodation of the existing driveway?
Yeah, otherwise, I'd have to come down here, come out here, and then go.
Do you own the property adjacent to it?
Over here?
Yes.
No.
Does that person care if you're,
He hasn't expressed any objection to it.
If you're, the other option would be to have a building turned and move south further.
The other one would be.
Which one do you want to go ahead with,
Be
though?
right here. The reason I'm thinking of doing that one is because. my
Be
house is right
75
here.
foot in from the yellow line.
Yes, and he's gonna ask.
and what is that stuff right there in the middle of the screen? What's in the middle of the screen there?
Pardon?
What's in the middle of the screen there? That,
This?
yeah.
That's a real good question. I don't know what that is.
It's a structure.
Is it?
It's your old corn crib structure?
It could be. There's an old granary right here, and then there's an old barn back here.
Okay.
Well, doesn't he have to decide which
Right.
plan he wants to go
Which
with?
way I want to go.
Yeah.
We could table it until next month.
You,
Pardon?
You gonna get some bids and
Yeah.
stuff this month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could table until next month. and put you
Continuance.
back- Continue it until then.
If we give you the wrong one tonight, you gotta come back anyway. So.
So you have two options. You make up your mind now,
Okay,
Or
I'll
you
just
can come
table
back
it.
in a
I'll
continuance.
table it till next month, and
and then that pushes it back to August for a final
Yeah.
decision.
I move we table it till next month.
It's not a table.
It's not tabled, it's continued.
the continuance or whatever.
To be continued next month,
Waited that long to get a continuance.
second Tuesday.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we
I already motioned.
have a continuance.
I said.
Continuance.
At the request of the applicant.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Who seconded?
I did.
So you're fine with that then we'll get the final plan, come back to me, and we have that ready to go in the next packet to the commission.
Okay.
So there's a motion for continuance at the request of the applicant,
And there was a second.
and there's a second.
Okay. So for the continuance for the Larson application, Kretzinger?
Yep.
Rudolph?
Yes.
Koenig?
Yes.
Duffmiller?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Bonestead?
Yes,
Kettering?
Yes.
Welch?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Larson.
Thank you very much.
See you later.
All right, the next aspect is 745 PM Great Bear Sand and Gravel. Applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to operate a quarry to mine gravel aggregate in the agriculture district, AG in Yankton County. Said property is legally described as west 1/2, southeast 1/4, southeast 1/4, except northeast James River Road and part southwest Jim River Road, east 1/2, southeast 1/4, southeast 1/4, section 32, township 95 north, range 55 west, hereinafter referred to as Walshtown Township, County of Yankton, State of South Dakota. 911 address is 30289 Northeast Jim River Road, Yankton, South Dakota. Is the applicant from Great Bear Sand and Gravel here to present their, yes, sir. Step forward and tell us about your project.
Thank you for waiting.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Name's Harold Gaden, owner of Great Bear Sand and Gravel. We want to set up a small gravel operation. On this 20 acres, there's about 85,000 ton of gravel in there. We We dug some holes, we bought the place, cleaned the place up. My daughter, it's a 20-acre parcel. My daughter built a house on the parcel because she moved to Yankton after I bought it, before I mined it, and she needed a place to live. We want to clean up the gravel that's left on the property. It's going to be pretty much a one-time deal, go in and clean it up and reclaim it. I've been in the sand and gravel business since 1995. I've operated 10 different mines. I've mined up 250 acres. I've reclaimed 160 acres of the 200. The other mines are active yet. I'm in the sand and gravel business and the excavating business since 1982. Our goal is to try to find a job where we can use this 80,000 ton of gravel on, bid the job, come in one time, mine it out, and then reclaim it. We had a job we bid on, and then I found that I had to have additional use permit to do it, so we moved that job over to Marthworth's pit and did it out of there so we could get additional use permits, so next time we have. Our access will be in and out of the pit off of the Vollen Road onto the blacktop and over to 81, so we'll be leaving the pit onto a blacktop road, and it will take us to Highway 81 for the access of the trucks.
So can you show me that on that screen?
You got your little mouse right in front of you, or the...
Yeah,
the
pick
pointer.
that.
Oh, this one here? Okay.
Push that button and gives her.
Okay. And this is a partial right here, right?
Yep.
Okay. This is the Vollen Road right here. 81's right here. It's 2 miles down the road. There's an access onto the highway right here, right before the bridge. And we can access out, and this is the area we're gonna mine. This little white shed's still there. There used to be a house there. We tore that down and cleaned it up. That mining area is gonna be, there used to be an old mine right here. The county used to haul out of it. And then the remainder gravel is kind of right in this little V right here. Yeah.
Call it the Johnson Bridge Road for those people that...
Any idea how many months this will take you to empty this?
Well, it'll take probably one job. If I get one job that I sold, I will mine the whole thing and I'll finish it up and then reclaim it.
Okay.
But I have to sell a job, and it might take me 2 years to get the job. I would like to ask for an additional use permit for 5 or 10 years, because that job might not come right away. But I would say I'm going to try to get it done.
Most conditional use permits don't have a end time frame on it.
Oh, okay, okay.
At least for
So-
mining, but, yeah.
When you have a mining
Everything
permit.
he's covered, we're looking for, right?
Right.
You have a mining permit?
Yes, when I bought the property, I drug test holes and seen how much gravel was there. And then I applied for a mining permit. And I did not know I needed an additional use permit until my daughter built a house here and we were going to subdivide the property. Then I found out that we needed 20 acres for the house. So I said, we don't need to subdivide the deal. I need to get additional use permit and just use the gravel, and then she can have all 20 acres.
Okay.
Her new house is right here, right now. We have already put it in there. We built that last
So if you
year.
get this job, you're going to be operating during daylight hours?
Oh, yes, I
Only
won't,
daylight.
I won't mine at night.
Okay. Just worried about, overhead lights and things like that.
Yeah, okay.
The mining permit is in your packet.
Okay?
And again, like I say, that's Johnson Bridge Road, so it takes you straight out to 81.
Right across the bridge, up the hill, first left.
The grandmother's house would go.
Let's see what else. So we know we'll get reclaimed.
Okay.
I don't see the mining permit. Do you have a copy of the mining permit?
I'll be on the back of one of those, but it looks like a check on there.
Oh, here it is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, part of the page.
First rate,
The mine's under first
Okay,
rate,
so
yes.
First Rate Excavating Incorporated.
Yep.
Yep.
We're ready.
I own First Rate Excavate too, my excavating company. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to this project?
Not really opposition, but just a concern, since you've already answered some of the questions. My name is Gary Slafley. I reside at 30342 Southwest Jim River Road, This property is just across the river and basically joins my property just south of on the west side of the bridge, south of the Vollen Road, Jim River Bridge. I got a short statement here. I'll provide the commission a copy of this also. Thank you, folks, for hearing me out. We have one concern regarding the quarry operation located at 30289 Northeast Jim River Road. Will Southwest Jim River Road ever be used by trucks to transport this gravel? There has been increasing traffic on Southwest Jim River Road by not only local traffic and large agricultural equipment. We're talking stuff that brushes both sides of the
Bridge.
the bridge, yes. In fact, they flattened a bunch of cones trying to get across there with the project the county's doing to rehab the bridge. We have the large agriculture equipment that comes up and down that corridor on Southwest Jim River Road, but we also have a lot of side dump and gravels that come off Kellen's Pit north, and then they go up the hill either east or up the hill to 81. So we have a lot of traffic back and forth. Some of that traffic travels very fast. Some of the side dumps that are double hitch, where you've got two side dumps behind a single semi, and those guys fly through there. The road is very curvy, it's very narrow. There's only one speed limit sign, 55 miles an hour, and it's down on the hard top just off of Whiting Drive, coming north out of town. Where Kellen's Pit ends is where the county had finished doing the hardtop road, and from there it's narrow, it's across a little tiny bridge on Beaver Creek, and it's very windy and hilly. You don't have very much chance at 55 miles an hour to avoid a piece of equipment. The gravel section of Southwest Jim River Road has numerous blind curves with no shoulder and mostly steep ditches. With a heavy deer population, occasional cattle out on the road, and regular beer-drinking drivers added in the mix, we are concerned for the safety of those using this road. Unless there are plans to pave the rest of Southwest Jim River Road, as was done for Kellen's Gravel Pit, they rehabbed the road, they straightened the curves, they took some of the hills out, they put a real nice bed in there because Kellen was going to be traveling that road a lot. The gravel pit is also located on Southwest Jim River Road. We highly suggest, at the very least, the speed limit signs of 35 mile an hour be posted on Southwest Jim River Road where the gravel meets the hard surface road, right at 306, where Kellen's Pit stops. They built a new house there because they come flying off that blacktop, 60-65, and it's a drop. When they put the hard surface road in there, they raise the road bed 6 feet at that intersection, and it drops off that blacktop. It's a real sharp drop. Place a 35-mile sign on Jim River Road, the gravel meets us over, and also at the intersection of Southwest Jim River Road and 303 Street, which is the Vollen Oil. Failure to address this matter of safety could result in very serious and very costly consequences to the county and the residents as a result. Thank you for your consideration in this matter of safety.
So your concern is him traveling on Jim River Road?
Yes.
South or north of
South,
And it's on the west side.
on the west side. Because there's a lot of traffic that I believe is skirting, going through the 46 and 81, and we have semis coming by all the time.
You're not the first one that's pointed that out to us, and we
Yeah.
can't, we understand that the county can't enforce the weight limits, and that's what they're avoiding by missing the weigh
Yeah.
station.
And the road shows it.
Yeah, and that's why we're working on one end of 303,
Well,
right?
one thing is,
We
that-
can't set what the speed limit will be either.
No,
no, but one of the things you're generally concerned is we got a couple county commissioners here, I'm sure they're addressing the traffic part. But one thing is, like you guys as neighbors could work out that when you're hauling, you could let them know that, hey, I'm gonna be working the pit in the next,
Well, But he isn't hauling, he's gonna get on that oil and he's going to 81.
Right.
He has no plans to come down this southwest Jim River Road.
I appreciate everything that Gary just said. But we're not going down that road. We're not gonna go down that road.
Right.
He's gonna
We're
come
going
out,
on 303rd until we
Right,
get
till
to
right to
81.
81.
All the
Yeah,
way to
Period,
81.
right?
Approving,
Okay, I'm gonna make the gravel, and there's somebody else gonna haul it, and if it goes for a county or state job, they will have to get a road
Haul agreement.
from the county.
Right.
On which route they're gonna take.
You're just gonna excavate it out of the
I'm
ground.
gonna excavate it out, crush it, make gravel or blacktop materials out of it, and then they'll buy the stuff and they will haul it. And then, I mean, if they went down that road, it would be that if somebody bought a load of gravel and wanted to take a place to that. Otherwise, they're gonna take that blacktop and they're gonna go to 81, because they're low limits. And they cannot haul doubles out of there, because there's no way to get out of there, because the bridge won't let you run a single truck that's at 80,000 pounds. So that's the maximum load we can take out of it.
Backing up what he has to say, let me look at this so that you have the facts on how that will be. If that changes, we know, because we'll know right away, and our conditional use gives us authority to say, if the county says we're gonna start hauling down Jim River Road, we need to know the specifics and metrics of that, or whoever that might be. Where he's referring to right here, just so that all of you are up to date on that, is that the Johnson Bridge Road is up here. Here's your Jim River.
yep,
As I go south, it goes a little ways. This pond here is the Kellen pit.
Killing Pit. Mhm.
So this is, and this has been here for a very long time. So they've been mining this.
the oil is right there.
90% of their loads go back down
South.
and stay on the hard top. They go. But I do hear sometimes where it isn't 90%. Sometimes they go up 306 and shoot over there, which is hard on that township road,
Which takes them to Tabor.
which would end up at 81,
Yes.
which takes them across.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
Tabor Road.
Yep. And then the other one is that sometimes we're getting, especially during waytime, and I think because of the Southwest Jim River Bridge work right now, we're getting extra traffic on this. But it's not from, I agree with what you're saying, that we do have some speed issues and that kind of thing, but that's a different matter.
It's
and
3
that's
miles
it.
of gravel.
Right, it's
Yeah.
separate from the
Yeah.
mining aspect.
Yeah, but this all turned to gravel here.
Right,
And
but,
it tends to be used very heavily.
but like he said, just because he mines it and most of the trucks are gonna go up the hill, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But if whoever sells it to, all they do is come down the road. Because all these double dumps and stuff, they're not supposed to be on that road.
are we,
Hasn't stopped them.
can we not put a haul route, an approved haul route on this?
We could, yes, we will, and it'll be the 303 to 81.
Right.
And that any other haul routes have to come to the office and deal with it.
If Wallstown's gonna be redone, he sells it to them, then it goes the other way up the hill.
Yeah, that's,
I think that's a real good idea.
Yeah.
as long as we know that, the conditional use just says we need to know that, it's going back up that way.
Well, but right now, your intent is to go to 81 with it.
That's why we're gonna have to intend to go to 81 with it, because
If that changes, you know you have to come and ask.
Yeah, and if, like I say, if we sell a project to a state or a county job, well, then the state or the county will make the contractor get a road services county. That's the general procedure.
Right.
Okay, so.
That's in addition to this.
To give you an example is we have the Marquardt pit, back there behind Fleegs. Marquardt pit's supposed to go down, go to highway, old Highway 50, and then go on any hard top after that point. The county did an awful lot of hauling out of that pit this spring, and it all went up to 300th, because they did that
301
overlay,
or 301. 301 or 303, they put more gravel on it.
They took the hard top apart on 303,
So they
east
had
of
to-
444.
So they had to come in and say, we're gonna change this haul route a little bit, and the county did a different haul, but we still made sure it wasn't beating up county roads. But that's the kind of example, Marquardt's pulling it out,
Yeah.
the county came in and bought it. They came in and said, here's what we're gonna use for a route, and we said, fine.
Okay.
Now, that's not to, we will always try and stay on top of that. I still get a couple of renegades down there at the Marquardt pit that go the wrong way, but it's rare. And we are tightening up on that, so I can't guarantee, but we certainly don't advocate, nor are we gonna allow continuous traffic
Yeah,
on Southwest Jim River Road.
right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other further discussion opposed to the project? All right, back to the Plan Commission. Any further discussion for Plan Commission?
I move approval of the conditional use permit as requested.
Second.
With findings of conditions that they use the access to 303 and then over to 81. And if anything changes, that they have to come back and get a new haul permit. And that they operate in the daylight hours,
No lights. Yep.
and there's no lights.
No lights.
No, it doesn't
I
have.
second it.
Okay.
Roll call.
Okay, with those conditions, for the gravel pit,
And the-
Kettering,
Yes.
Rudolph,
Yes.
Kretzinger,
Yep.
Koenig,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Bodenstedt,
Yes,
Duff Miller,
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, moving to
The last one.
755.
just a couple
I'm
hours.
gonna screw up this name, Delos Warner.
Warner.
Warner. Applicant is requesting a variance of minimum yard requirement on a side yard from 75 feet to 52 feet to build an accessory structure in the Ag District in Yankton County. Property is legally described as east 1/2, northwest 1/4, section 29, township 94 north, range 55 west, hereinafter referred to as Mission Hill North Township, County of Yankton, state of South Dakota. 911 address is 44147 307th Street, Yankton, South Dakota. If the party is here to present their project, if they would step forward and describe their project.
If they're still awake.
You're on.
You can make it. You
Public-
can make
Ask me
it.
no questions and we'll be fine.
Public
Where's your
speaking
partner? He didn't
101.
want to come up? He's shy, huh?
Yeah, right. Okay, my name's Marietta Sprockle. I live at 44147 307th Street. And that's about all I know.
Okay,
So
See the site plan?
why do you need a variance?
Well, they want to put up like a pole shed so that when we grind hay, it isn't out in the open. So they just kind of want to put it on some cement and then put a top to it
that's
for
what
in the
this is.
winter time.
Just a pole shed.
Yeah, it's just a little,
Is
it's
it
got
going to
cement.
have covering on one end, or is this going to be wide open?
It's going to be covered.
Yeah, it have a roof on it, but is it going to have
Yeah.
sides?
A little bit, yeah.
Three sides,
Three
okay,
sides,
three
yeah.
sides. He really threw you under the bus, didn't he?
But
You're
he has to-
doing well.
He has to come up here and give his name and address,
He say, he
because
says
he
that-
spoke.
He says
Okay,
anything.
that sounds good. Get up here. You might as well get used to it.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
it's coming up, I want you to see how the line is, and then there's the shelter belt, and
Yep.
then there's, and as you can see there, we're talking about a 52-foot area.
It's all inside of the
So,
shelter.
give us your name and address.
Jacob Warner. I live at 44147 307th Street.
Okay, so who is this Delos?
Delos is my dad.
Is your dad, okay.
Her husband.
He owns, all right, all right,
Yeah, he's out on the road working.
all right.
You hope.
So this picture that we're seeing here, it shows the structure and you're gonna take out your chicken yard? Is that what-
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
that
gonna
order
take
that
some
in
of our chicken yard.
Yeah.
So, and what is that? Is that hay or whatever?
Yeah, those are piles of hay.
Okay, so you're just,
That's where we put it now, but that fills up with water.
is your
and then
entrance gonna be then to the, this way?
Yeah, we'll drive in it north, so the south side will be open.
Oh, okay.
Do you own the property adjacent?
No, that's Larry Lane owns that.
But you got a pretty dense shelter belt there along there.
Yeah, cedar trees, 2
Yeah.
rows.
I know somebody wants some of those in the previous application, and sell them cedar trees. Okay. All right, any more questions, do you?
No
Anybody got
further
a question?
questions? Is anyone in the audience speak in opposition to this project? Is anyone in the audience to speak in favor of this project? There's no comments from the audience. Back to the planning commission. Any comments or questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Wait a sec, you gotta put findings of fact.
Findings of fact.
The findings of fact that,
Findings of fact.
you know,
No opposition.
well, there's no opposition, they're less than 75 feet, but there's a double wide shelter belt. Got a double wide shelter belt there. And
How about their operation? Are they an active farm?
They're active farm and it's currently zoned agriculture.
And the way that they're doing their structure fits in the farm operation?
yes, it does, they're taking some of
Push it out
the
another 25
chicken
feet.
yard.
Wouldn't that push it out into the production zone?
Yes.
They are raising cattle.
And they are raising hay, alfalfa, hay.
And chickens.
So the building fits in the scheme of the other buildings and it does not go further than the buildings that exist? So we already have existing structures?
And it's common to type of structures in this district.
4 chickens.
For hay.
Okay, so that meets hardships.
The hardship is the wasted grain. Once if they leave it on the ground, it gets wet.
Yeah.
And fits in the scheme of their structures as they exist.
Gives the chickens.
And it's not doing it for caprice or whatever the other one was.
It's an existing operation, so the profits to them. Not detrimental to the neighborhood.
Absolutely not.
All right, then I have a motion and a second based on those findings. Okay, ready? Becker,
Yes.
Kretzinger,
Yep.
Kettering,
Yes.
Bodenstedt,
Yes.
Gus Miller,
Yes.
Koenig,
Yes.
Rudolph,
Yes.
motion carried.
I'll say yes too.
You said yes too
Thanks for
much.
being patient, folks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So 8 PM is the Yankton County Public Hearing Amendment Resolution, Yankton County Zoning Ordinance 16, Article 27, Corridor Overlay Districts, Highway 52 Corridor Overlay District, Section 2709, E signs.
Denise, would you run a copy of this for me, please?
Would the party asking for this point on the agenda tell us about your project?
Yeah. I want them to sign this, so I need to, I got it on scratch paper for some reason.
You got one here that's now, that's good.
But but the other side,
Yeah.
it's printed on both sides, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. She'll run it that. Okay, what we're doing is we've amended, I met with concerned citizens and sign people and other folks that wanted to review the signs only, part of the overlay district. And part of the issue was is that the signs were perceived as being too small. And as we met, we started meeting in February, and we met each month until through April. And we got some changes done there. We tried to keep it very simple, but we realized that signs on Broadway, you're going by them like 30 miles an hour. So your font can be pretty that size. But take that font and try and see it when you're going down Highway 52 at 55 miles an hour or 50 miles an hour. You can't see it. So, and we went through some research and some things, and that makes sense, and so we're gonna make the signs larger. So, all lots abutting the Highway 52 shall not exceed, it used to be 10 feet, now we're saying 15 feet in height. And shall not exceed 120 square feet on each side. Each pole sign shall not exceed 30 feet. And we crossed out the 60, and now it's 120 square feet on signs on both sides, and also 120 square feet on all traditional text and graphic signs. We also needed to talk about multi-tenants. And so what we came up with is we said multi-tenant business signs shall not exceed 2 square feet per 1 linear foot of street footage, with a maximum of 400 square feet on each side. So the street frontage is measured on Highway 52. And so that meant a lot. There are several entities down there that are looking at multi-tenant. And so after we went with that, they felt that was sufficient. And multi-tenant being you've got 2 or more tenants and your sign is appropriately for each one of those tenants. Then we also talked about signs on the buildings and what should we do with some regulation on that. And so all lots abutting on-site signs shall not exceed 2 square feet per 1 linear foot of structure frontage with a maximum total of 200 square feet of signage for each structure. Those are signs that are on the building itself. And trying to control how much space that. Now, an interesting piece on that is let's say we have a sign now going on Sealand Marina. It's actually an awning that will go all the way around that large building. The awning is all going to be appearing as the sign, but the text is only going to be X number square feet of that total awning. So all we do for signage is measure the text. So you might have a 100-foot awning with only 10 feet of text by 2 feet high. So we've only got 20 square feet of text in that sign. That's what that'll be on an awning type sign. So we're just measuring just the text.
Are they planning on taking down that other sign then?
I don't know. I think so. We're in the process. I'm sure they are. The rest of them stayed the same as far as illuminating, and that's especially for your meeting the requirements. And we worked with Daktronics to get these levels, and then the landscape base has stayed the same. The other thing that we're working on is that all banner signs, number 6, will require a special permit for a period not exceeding 60 days in a calendar year for a fee of $50 for each sign permit. A banner sign permit for a period not exceeding 3 days in a calendar year for a fee of $25 for each permit. Banner signs are very clearly defined in the definitions of our ordinance, and basically they're anything that beer flapping, the beer type signs to the pole signs to anything that's not firmly attached based on number 1 underneath signs is considered a banner sign. And so, with banner signs, we feel that we do have an overuse of them, and we have some properties that are committed to the ordinance as it stands because it got adopted in 2012, and we have a lot of properties that are not. They're grandfathered. So, number 7 states that all property in the Highway 52 Corridor Overlay District in existence as of the date of the amended overlay ordinance, which is not in compliance with the requirements of Article 27, Section E, signs, number 6, shall be made to comply with all regulations within 12 months of the date of this amendment of the Corridor Overlay District.
So they get a 1-year grace period.
1 year, and after that, they have to get permits, so they don't get the banner signs.
Without paying the fee?
Without paying the fee. The fee is
there?
The fee is there for a reason. We discourage the banner signs.
Is there a minimum or maximum number of banners that any business can have?
We don't have that down. It's permitted, however they're doing, 60 per sign.
So for continuity across Yankton County, is there any consideration of the county using the same ordinances that the city uses for signs?
It's too complex for us. It's got too many details. It's got too many things that are associated with slower traffic, with high density, with safety controls. It was very different. We used pieces in there in terms of how we worked on our sunset clause on there, and we did, and the special permits for these signs. We did utilize some of their language for that. They actually went in 2 years from now, there'll be no banner signs. There won't be no more special permits. We didn't, the committee, the group of citizens here in the committee did not feel that that was necessary at this time.
Are there some signs that don't get counted against the business when they're put in the ground?
No.
Most they can have is 60 days in a year?
Yep.
A banner?
Yep.
They can't buy another permit?
Get 60 days in a calendar year.
Right.
Right. Yep.
So 160-dayer.
Yep. And the object there is to discourage the banner signs.
What about,
see if we can get them out of
what
there.
about political signs? Do they count?
They're excluded. And that's excluded under the 14 ordinance in which we can't,
They don't count against a business.
Right. And signs can only, you can never look at what the sign contains. In other words, the text, the message, you can only do time and manner and place. You cannot talk about, we cannot talk about political signs in our, we even have it in our ordinance, but it's not a legal thing. We cannot, all we can say is that this kind of sign on a little post, we can't talk about what the text is. Political is not, we can't do that anymore.
How come we don't address the electronic signs?
We do, it's in here.
Yeah, so I thought-
And we addressed it quite a bit. We allow them, and we have ambient height or light restrictions, and how big they can be.
Foot
Number
candle.
th- number 4.
Which one?
So electronic signs are in the business now. So we did address them.
Number 4.
I see it now, I missed it.
The process is, this is public hearing, planning commission. If I get approval here and we get the ordinance, the resolution moving forward, then we'll go to the board, to the county
So this
commission with it
resolution
next.
is not for tonight, this is.
Yes, that's for tonight.
Oh.
That's for us.
Yeah.
It's our resolution.
Is this on a schedule where we have to approve this tonight or
Yeah,
disapprove?
well, we have to for the first reading.
Planning Commission.
This is the planning commission resolution.
So, do we need to read this?
Yep.
Are you
So-
going to do it, or are you going to sum it up?
So a resolution recommending the amendment of Article 27, the Yankton County Overlay District, South Dakota Highway 52 Corridor Overlay District, Section 2709E, signs. The Yankton County Zoning Ordinance Number 16. Whereas South Dakota Codified Law 11-2-13 allows Yankton County to establish zoning regulations, and whereas the Yankton County zoning ordinance number 16 establishes zoning regulations in Yankton County, South Dakota, and whereas section 1809 of the Yankton County zoning ordinance number 16 gives the Yankton County Planning Commission powers to recommend amendments to the Yankton County zoning ordinance number 16. And Yankton County Planning Commission hereby agrees the Yankton County offers one of the most scenic drives in South Dakota. The view from the Chalkstone Hills spectacular and the corridor ends at the beautiful Lewis and Clark Lake. The rich natural environment should be complemented by a vibrant built environment. The Highway 52 Corridor Overlay District provides basic guidelines that promote quality design along the most visible and heavily traveled road corridor in Yankton County zoning jurisdiction. Highway 52 from the city of Yankton to Lewis and Clark Lake. The Highway 52 Corridor Overlay District is intended to encourage development design that strengthens the physical character and image of Yankton County, supports the value of property and quality of development in the major highway corridor, set basic requirements for good design, site design and development, building design, landscaping, and signage without discouraging creativity and flexibility in design, permit safe and convenient transportation access and circulation for motorized and non-motorized vehicles and for pedestrians, and manage the impact of commercial and industrial development on adjacent residential neighborhoods. So, whereas the overlay district applies the following areas: land within 650 feet south and north of the center line of Highway 52 within the planning jurisdiction of Yankton County. The eastern terminus of the corridor overlay district is the intersection of Highway 52 and Lower Chalkstone Road. The western terminus of the corridor overlay district is the Highway 52 and Welcome Avenue. This area shall include all zone property lakeside commercial on the north side of Highway 52. Is hereby now therefore be resolved that the Yankton County Planning Commission here recommends to establish an order, a fair and efficient process for review and approval of applications, assure an integrated and comprehensive review of the impact of all Highway 52 corridor activity, and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the county of Yankton, recommend amendment adoption of Article 27, Corridor Overlay Districts, Highway 52, Corridor Overlay District, Section 27E, signs,
2709.
2709E, signs to amending Yankton County zoning ordinance number 16. So I would look for a motion from a commissioner, a second from a commissioner, and then it'll be a roll call vote.
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution on the signs.
I second it.
You guys need to be more, recommend the amendment of Article 27, Yankton County Overlay Districts. You gotta say that.
Why we have you?
No, I mean, when we make a motion, we should make a full motion. So, read this.
So go ahead, you got it?
27?
Yep, Article 27.
Yankton County Overlay District. South Dakota Highway 52 corridor overlay load.
Okay, I make a motion to accept a resolution recommending the amendment of Article 27, Yankton County Overlay District, South Dakota Highway 52 Corridor Overlay District, Section 2709 East Signs, Yankton County Zoning Ordinance Number 16.
Now somebody second.
Very good. Do I have a second? And I got my second is whom? Is Kretzinger? You still do it? Okay, and I have that written. Okay, so for approval, Goodall.
Yes.
Second.
Me.
Kretzinger, where are you? There you are. Kretzinger. Koenig.
Yes.
Becker.
Yes.
Kettering.
Yes.
Bodenstedt.
Yes.
Guthmiller.
Yes.
Welsh.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion to adjourn?
Before we have a motion to adjourn, I would like to bring up that we discussed it tonight. We should put on an agenda at what date we're gonna finalize the size of accessory structures in Yankton County. And I think that that could be accomplished before the end of
Well, we have-
2018.
We have to have, oh yeah,
How do we go about that process?
well, we've got to, just like we did right here, we have to have a resolution that lays out the changes that we want to have. And have a first reading, and then we have to have a second reading.
Board of Adjustment.
The county commission has to approve it, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. We should,
So anyway, I think that like the county commission recommended that I recommended the county commissioners address us that we resolve the building size of accessory structures by the end of 2018.
okay. Then I'll bring that in front of the county commission and get their approval.
We have to have a reading of a resolution, just like we have right here, don't we?
Don't be hoarding them.
We
Keep
gotta do our, we have to go through, just like we did the sign thing.
I understand.
It's gonna take a couple
This
months,
was the
but we
first
need,
step that
we
is
need the
now,
director.
like,
Yep.
a topic of discussion.
We need the director from the commission to do that. We can't just do it. So I will make a recommendation that, in the front, at the next commission meeting for permission.
That's how it works, we have to get direction from the commission.
I'll address it to the commission that we've been requested, or that, can we move forward on amending accessory structure sizes?
At least make.
And after that, does anyone have a motion for adjournment?
I'll give a motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye, aye, aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Anyone opposed?